What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4SS 0762 Girls Meet, reservation for Shira Field. The first update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 564, 141, 188, leave system space. Anzhe turned to look at Jiro Kyoka, who was still practicing to perceive the existence of magic power, and Baruch had already prepared dinner. The time is 7 o'clock in the evening. Anzhe lightly touched Jiro Kyoka's shoulder. Kyoka, let's eat, we will practice later. Jiro Kyoka slowly opened his eyes, frowning and tilting his head. This little action made others feel very cute inadvertently. I seem to have found a trace. Really? Then Kyoka, you're talented. Anzhe raised her eyebrows when she heard that, and the two came to the table, talking about the pre-dinner speech I had started, and Jiro Kyoka told her experience just now. The more Anzhe heard it, the more he felt incredible. Jiro Kyoka was indeed about to find his magic power. Even in the case of him teaching not to make detours, this talent is obvious enough. Speaking of which, according to the original plot, Jiro Kyoka will be admitted to UA High School. UA High School is not so easy to pass. Leaving aside the practical assessment, the written test requires a deviation of 79 or more in all subjects. This alone is enough to stop many students across the country. It can be said that the students who can be admitted to Yingying are either smart or hardworking, or both, at least they are better than ordinary people. Strictly speaking, as long as you practice hard, you can at least feel the magic power. However, people with different talents naturally have different difficulties in the cultivation process. Anzhe has to think about this, because his idea is to spread magic to all people. In other words, Jiro Kyoka is now a precious guinea pig. I'm stuffed. Jiro Kyoka clasped his hands together, quickly returned to the sofa, and continued to practice the magic of perception. She has completely fallen into it, and her attention is completely concentrated. But the problem is, Anzhe looked up at the time again. Kyoka, are you planning to go home and stay here? Anzhe shook his head hastily, dispelling the unavoidable distraction. Kyoka's current state is not suitable for being disturbed. It would be great if she could perceive the magic power today. Why don't you start a company? But I don't want to spend too much energy, or get a company to support me. Anzhe murmured softly. The words were surprising, and her thoughts jumped out of nowhere. His firm-like company is registered, and the company he wants now is for magic. People are sometimes poor. A person who wants to promote is nothing more than a dream. Anzhe needs a team to help him promote magic. It would be great if some famous AJDB hero S can practice magic to help promote it. All Might. Number 1 professional hero S, a symbol of peace, its appeal and influence needless to say. However, the magic that Anzhe has mastered now doesn't seem to be of much help to his most important physical condition. So first jump out of the scope of professional hero S. Ordinary people are very influential and can provide financial support for themselves. As a result, Anzhe immediately thought of a candidate, who was the owner of the building where his office was located. Yaoyorozu Wan Foundation, Chairman, Yaoyorozu Momo's father. Money, fame, everything. Thinking about it this way, Anzhe felt that this candidate couldn't be better, and made a preliminary plan. And before that, find a few more mice. Ahem, a few people to practice magic and get some data. 2. Call Hatsume Mei, and it didn't take long to connect. Anzhe said, hello, Hatsume Mei. Do you have time to come to my house now, and give me the shoes you made to try on? W. At this point in time, a boy invites a girl to his home. It's okay if it's a lover, but it's just a friend relationship. 9 out of 10 girls will refuse and block this boy. However, in some respects, Hatsume Mei is different from ordinary girls, just like she quickly responded and said, okay, Xiao Jie, let me tell you, this baby will definitely satisfy you. I named it G Walking Boots. Boots of Swiftness. The name is a bit of a joke. Of course, the crux of the problem is that Hatsume Mei agreed, and did not hesitate whether Anzhe, a boy living alone, would. In fact, Anzhe also has distracted thoughts, and he is not an eminent monk. It's just that for this kind of thing, both parties must like each other, and the most important thing is that they are too young. For long-term planning, although his capital is quite good, making achievements too early will still affect some development. Anyway, there is no need to be in a hurry. Anzhe chatted with Hatsume Mei for a while, inferring the phone call. He originally made an appointment to meet at Duoguchang Seaside Park, but the plan couldn't keep up with the change, and he also taught Hatsume Mei magic by the way. During this waiting time, Anzhe also began to practice magic power. Magic power is the most important thing for a mage, and there is no shortcut, only persevering practice every day. In this way, time passed quickly, and it was 11 o'clock in the evening without knowing it. Jiro Kyoka finally opened her eyes. Her face was full of joy. She successfully sensed the magic power and refined the magic power of the air into her body. She just wanted to share it with Anzhe, but found that he was also practicing magic power with his eyes closed, so she didn't bother him. Looking down at the time on the phone, it was 2300. Why is it so late? Jiro Kyoka was so scared that she almost couldn't even hold her phone steady. She suddenly remembered that when she was struggling with what skirt to wear today, her mother Mika said to herself. It's okay if you don't come back at night. I also refuted fiercely, but this is the situation now. No wonder it was so late, and the family hadn't called to inquire about the situation. Thinking of her and Anzhe being alone and widowed, although there is a maid Baruch, it is inevitable that unexpected things will happen. Ah, so annoying. Jiro Kyoka lowered his head to cover her face, already blushing like maple leaves all over the mountain, obviously couldn't help thinking about the so-called accident. Ding dong. At this time, the doorbell rang, interrupting Jiro Kyoka's cranky thoughts. It's so late, who will come? Jiro Kyoka got up and walked to the door, opened the door, and a girl with cherry hair came into view. Look down again. That is a gap like a natural moat, my own existence is completely incomparable to the gap in absolute strength. Xiao Jie, I'm coming. Xiao Jie. Such an intimate address made Jiro Kyoka blacken instantly, exuding an unkind and terrifying aura. At this time, Hatsume Mei also noticed that it was not Anzhe who greeted her but a girl. At this moment, the two women looked at each other, and both had an idea of who the other was. 077 Shira Field, various accidents. Second update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 190. 48. 63. Who are you? Why are you at Xiaoju's house? Hatsume Mei asked first. Call Xiao Jie again. Jiro Kyoka twitched the corner of his mouth. The girl in front of him called. Xiao Jie, it seems that he is a friend, and he is a relatively close one. I'm in his house, who do you think I am? Jiro Kyoka smiled kindly, acting like a hostess, defending sovereignty. Hatsume Mei frowned slightly, feeling uncomfortable in her heart. Even if she doesn't have a love interest, she is an inventive girl who is completely devoted to developing Hero's support items. But as a girl, she is naturally sensitive and competitive, so she refuses to admit defeat and wants to win. So who the hell are you? Why come at this time? As Hatsume Mei brewed silence, Jiro Kyoka looked over questioningly. Hatsume Mei straightened up on purpose, and even clicked on Max directly without a teacher, and responded with a smile. Because Xiao Jie called me here, and I call him, Xiao Jie, who do you think I am? 000. With a stagnant breath, the same rhetorical question made Jiro Kyoka speechless. A strange girl called her childhood sweetheart a nickname she hadn't even called before. It felt like there was someone out there behind her back. She was so angry. Jiro Kyoka's cheeks bulged slightly. Hold back. Be Yuga, be reserved and not get angry. Getting angry means losing the fight. Therefore, the two women stood in a stalemate at the door for a while, and neither of them wanted to let them see. At the same time, Anzhe in the room slowly opened his eyes and finished his practice. Then, under the gesture of Beluja's eyes, he looked towards the door. I'll go, why did Hatsume Mei come here so quickly? Seeing the cherry-haired girl standing outside the door, and Jiro Kyoka confronting her, Anzhe was shocked. I'm afraid Hatsume Mei was very excited to show her baby to herself, trotting all the way ahead of time for him to come over the normal way. Shira Field. Anzhe swallowed nervously, the two of them were clearly at war, and it could be said that the confrontation made him a little flustered. Hold on, Anzhe. The more this kind of time, the more you can't panic. It's just an ordinary friend's visit, and it will definitely not become an expansion of the Shira Field. Speaking of it, he didn't expect that the two women would meet like this, he thought Hatsume Mei wouldn't care about it at all. Underestimated girls. Anzhe took a light breath and walked to the door, just about to explain. Who is she? Who is she? Jiro Kyoka and Hatsume Mei spoke in unison, and even pointed at each other in the same way. Anzhe felt cold on his forehead, whoever answered the question first, the other party would be overturned. You two ladies, it's very cold with the wind blowing in outside the door, let's go inside and talk. Buru. Baluj is here to the rescue. Both of them knew the existence of Baluj, and she was excluded from the confrontation by default. She took a pair of slippers from the shoe cabinet to Hatsume Mei, she was the fourth, perfectly avoided the embarrassing situation and broke the game. Just as Anzhe breathed a sigh of relief, he heard Baruch say seriously, if you offend and disturb the two of you, please teach me and punish me like the master usually does. Quote. Seeing the two girls looking at him with scumbag eyes at the same time, Anzhe just felt so tired that he couldn't explain why he jumped into the Yellow River. He would rather fight against the vicious villains than be in the Shira Field. In short, the four of them finally entered the room and sat on the sofa, and Baruch went to the kitchen to prepare tea. Wait, both of you don't talk, listen to me. Anzhe stretched out his hand, he had to finish the explanation in one breath. This is Hatsume Mei, I met when I was exercising in Daguchang Seaside Park. Anzhe said, now Hatsume Mei is making Hero's auxiliary props for me, and we are business partners. Jiro Kyoka, my childhood sweetheart. Anzhe introduced to Hatsume Mei again, come to my house as a guest today, and I want to declare that what Beluga said just now was a joke. After speaking in one breath, Anzhe was sitting quietly waiting for the two to respond. Jiro Kyoka stood up first, and greeted lightly, it's the first time to meet you, I'm Jiro Kyoka. When we met for the first time, I knew it by myself. Hatsume Mei also smiled cooperatively, as if forgetting about the confrontation at the door just now, and began to take out the baby in her backpack. Such as the Shira Field, it really doesn't exist. Anzhe breathed a sigh of relief quietly. Jiro Kyoka said, Hatsume Mei, sit down for a while, I'll wash the fruit for you. Anzhe looked in shock, you can hand over the washing of fruit to Deluge. Volunteering to wash fruit for a girl you just met who is a stranger. He always feels that his reaction is not normal, or washing fruit, greeting guests. These seem to be silently declaring his sovereignty. While Jiro Kyoka went to the kitchen to wash fruit, Hatsume Mei returned to the invention girl, and took out a shoe from the backpack she was carrying to show. Xiaojie, look, this is the best baby I have improved countless times. Walking boots, try them on quickly. Although Anzhe wants to complain about the name, but I still don't disturb Hatsume Mei's interest zero. Try it on now. After the agreement was made at Duoguchang Seaside Park that day, countless pairs of shoes have actually been produced up to now. But every time Anzhe tried it on, he felt that it was not enough, and the shoes still couldn't bear his speed, so he kept asking Hatsume Mei to improve and improve until the shoes named Swift Boots. God's feet. The galloping wind. Anzhe blessed himself to the fastest speed, walked outside the door, and ran out suddenly. At this time, Jiro Kyoka came out with a fruit plate, saw that there were few people in the room and asked in doubt, where are the people from Anzhe? Blinked. The next moment, a gust of wind lifted her goose-yellow skirt. Not bad, Hatsume Mei this time. Anzhe, who ran 200 meters back and forth, was about to compliment the shoes when the blue and white stripes caught his eyes. Anzhe. The wind died down, the hem of the skirt dropped, and Jiro Kyoka looked at him kindly. Snapped. Rogue. Ahem, Hatsume Mei, I think the quality of the shoes this time is completely fine. Anzhe coughed twice, and sat and talked with Hatsume Mei, but the girl kept staring at the left side of his face. The red palm prints have been conveying burning pain. Anzhe, who knows he is wrong, has nothing to do, there are too many accidents this night, he continued. Hatsume Mei, I have something to tell you, which can help you improve your strength. Speaking, Anzhe glanced at the time, it was past 12 o'clock in the evening and it was the early morning of the next day. Kyoka, it's so late, aren't you going home? Asked by Anzhe, Jiro Kyoka nodded, she should go home at 4.1, it is impossible to really stay overnight. Hey, luckily I'm smart. Xiaojie, I've brought a change of clothes and I'll stay at your place tonight. At this time, Hatsume Mei took out a set of pajamas from the backpack she carried with her. Okay. Anzhe stood up in response, and was about to send Jiro Kyoka home safely, but found that the girl was motionless and had no intention of going home. My parents should be asleep at this point, and I don't want to disturb them without the key, so I'll stay overnight at your place, Anzhe. Jiro Kyoka smiled kindly, staring at Hatsume Mei with narrowed eyes, not to be outdone. Anzhe twitched the corners of his mouth, and sat back helplessly, looking at his maid, Beluge. She also looked helpless and shrugged her shoulders. Hey, Anzhe let out a faint sigh. 078 Jiro Kyoka's night raid, the hero exam is coming. The third update, please subscribe. Baluge, clean up the storage room and study room, and bring out 2 sets of quilts on the floor. Anzhe ordered Baluge, who nodded and went to tidy up the room. That being said, since both Jiro Kyoka and Hatsume Mei will be staying overnight, it's time to make sure there is room. Fortunately, Anze's home is very large, and the area of the study and storage room is more than enough to accommodate one person. Can you both sleep on the floor? Anzhe looked at the 2 women and asked. Yes, times 2. There is floor heating in the house, which is also the habit of Japanese house design, and the temperature is very warm. Not to mention sleeping on the floor, even if you walk barefoot on the floor, you will never feel very cold. By the way, Xiaojie, I can't bring the sunglasses you mentioned earlier. Hatsume Mei blinked, as if just remembering, it's in the secret base we established in Duoguchang Seaside Park, when the time comes you can just go and get it. New. Anzhe smiled and nodded, the secret base is a small space built with some discarded items from the junkyard, sofas, truck iron sheets, etc. Hatsume Mei usually puts some materials in it as a small factory, which is also convenient for her to manufacture and develop products. Although Duoguchang Seaside Park was not sealed because of the Iron Shark, it was regarded as a dangerous place by ordinary people. Not to mention coming over to 09, even the people who used to throw garbage illegally never approached again. It can be said that Anzhe and Hatsume Mei are completely reserved there, but there should be Green Valley Izuku and All Might in the back, who will exercise their physical fitness there according to the original plot. Duoguchang Seaside Park. Jiro Kyoka, who heard the name of the place next to him, frowned slightly, feeling a little bit snacky in his heart. Then let's talk about the next business. Anzhe changed the subject, he called Hatsume Mei's real purpose. Hatsume Mei, do you believe in magic? Hatsume Mei tilted her head and questioned cutely. Actually, so, Anzhe preached to the girl again, just like telling Lang Shangshang. No need, I'm an inventor girl, magic is useless to me. Hatsume Mei's answer, Anzhe had expected it, she should think that practicing magic will definitely delay her invention. Hatsume Mei, you have to think about it differently, whether it's perceiving magic power, or performing and manipulating those magical magics. Anzhe turned on the induction mode again, and his tone was full of guidance. These all require precise micro-manipulation, which just happens to play a big role in your invention, and minimize the possibility of accidental errors as much as possible. Hatsume Mei rested her chin with one hand and thought for a while, it seems that this is indeed the case. That's right, and the auxiliary equipment you invented should be tested by someone. Anzhe clapped his hands and continued. When you master magic and increase your strength, can you use yourself as a data test, saving time and effort? Then I'll learn. Hatsume Mei nodded in agreement, agreeing to practice magic. Then, Anzhe still played the role of the master leading the door, and then let Hatsume Mei go to the cleaned room to practice and perceive the magic power by herself. And told her to record the time it took when she sensed the magic power. After finishing these, the 3 of them and Baluch also went back to their rooms. Anzhe lay on the bed, swiped his phone, and read some news. After flipping through it, I put down my phone and was about to get up and go to the toilet, so as not to let my digestive system interfere with my sleep, when suddenly there was a rustling sound. Anzhe didn't get up in a daze, but turned around to look. A figure appeared outside the door, and the shadows of two linear objects swayed and swayed. It should be obvious who it was. Kyoka. Before he could yell out, Jiro Kyoka walked in from outside the door and was slowly approaching his bedside. So here comes the problem. Jiro Kyoka didn't sleep in the middle of the night. What did he come to his room suddenly? Could it be a night attack? Impossible. It's not about fan unfolding. That kind of thing can't exist in reality. After such a hesitation, the slender, even thin girl did not turn on the light, but walked in front of Anzhe silently, with dexterous and subtle steps like a cat. Anzhe pretended to be asleep, but actually opened a gap in his eyes secretly. At this moment, in the dimly lit room, it was difficult to find him sneaking a glance. Stare. The purple-haired girl bent over and leaned over, and even had a faint scent of shampoo in her nostrils. Anzhe hesitated immediately. Hey, what is this for? Could it be that they really came here to attack at night? What should he do if it is true? Pretend to be asleep and let it be slaughtered. Anzhe. Jiro Kyoka leaned over and saw that Anzhe didn't respond or move. The purple-haired girl pursed her pink lips, stretched out her right hand, and landed on Anze's face. To be precise, on the ears. Twist lightly. Anzhe knew he couldn't pretend to be asleep, so he sat up straight. How do you know I'm not asleep? Jiro Kyoka was startled, and said amusedly, I just came to you for something, and I will wake you up whether you are asleep or not. Well, the girl's answer made Anzhe feel a little embarrassed and wanted to whistle. So what were you thinking just now? Jiro Kyoka asked calmly. Nothing. HMPH, I always feel like you're thinking about dirty things. Anzhe didn't hide it, or put it bluntly, and directly admitted, I was wondering if you were going to attack me at night. Jiro Kyoka. It was obvious that a suspicious blush appeared on Jiro Kyoka's face, and she raised her right hand a little annoyed, as if to punch Anzhe lightly. Conditioned reflex. Anzhe sat up subconsciously and grabbed Jiro Shangshang's wrist. As a result, Jiro Kyoka, who was standing, was unsteady and fell into Anze's arms. The fragrance of the pleasant floral shampoo hits the nose. Besides, there is a quiet body fragrance like violets. The four eyes are facing each other. The air was suddenly silent. Anzhe clearly heard Jiro Kyoka's breathing became quicker, and the atmosphere was quite awkward for a moment. Let go. Jiro Kyoka bit the corner of his mouth, his voice a little pitiful. Terribly sorry. Anzhe apologized decisively. The girl was shy, and he also knew that he had gone too far. Then covered Jiro Kyoka's hands with the quilt, and changed the subject solemnly. Kyoka, your hands are so cold, the temperature is a bit low at night, you should be careful. Jiro Kyoka was slightly silent, looking at Anzhe. You have changed. What? Anze's heart skipped a beat, a little flustered. As a result, Jiro Kyoka said coldly, become shameless and talk a lot of sweet words. Point 333. Kyoka, what's the matter with you looking for me so late? Anzhe coughed again and changed the subject. Jiro Kyoka stood up again and asked, Anzhe, do you usually exercise at Daguchang Seaside Park? Jiro Kyoka gritted his teeth lightly, and said in a tone that could not be refused, for the actual combat assessment, I also want to exercise my physical fitness, and then I will go there to exercise with you, Anzhe. That's all. Anzhe was a little confused. Even if Kyoka didn't say anything, he would definitely take her there for special training. Good night. Jiro Kyoka also seemed to feel that his head was a little hot, and would come to Anze's room at this hour just to talk about it. Anzhe said, good night. Nothing to say all night. After waking up the next day, Jiro Kyoka and Hatsume Mei, who had breakfast, also went home separately. Life has returned to routine and peace. Anzhe lives a few repetitive things every day, such as practicing, exercising, going to school, inspecting the office, and then accepting commissions from Heroes on weekends. The only difference is that Jiro Kyoka will come over when exercising in Daguchang Seaside Park. In addition, as in the original plot, All Might passed OFA to Izuku Green Valley, who also started long-term training in the Seaside Park. In this way, 10 months flew by in an instant. Anzhe and others graduated from junior high school. The eve of the hero's actual combat assessment is coming. 079 UA. High school. Visit Hatsume Mei from support section. Fourth update. Please subscribe. The dark sky began to gradually turn white, and the eastern skyline announced the beginning of the day. It's early spring time of the year again. Everything recovers, the grass grows and the warbler flies. February 26th, today is the day of UA. High school entrance examination. Yingying is too rich. Anzhe stood at the very imposing gate of UA. High school, looking at the extremely wide main road inside, and couldn't help but marvel. On both sides of the main road, there are rows of stone statues, all of which are carved in the shape of famous heroes who were born as heroes in the past. Kyoka, don't be so nervous, I'm afraid you can easily pass the temporary license test with your strength. Jiro Kyoka, who was standing next to Anzhe, rubbed his fists against each other at the moment, obviously a little nervous. However, in his opinion, Kyoka completely lacks a general understanding of his current strength. She has become the original expectation. Quirk's earphone cable can transmit double attacks of sound waves and electric current, and the superimposed damage is very amazing. But if you haven't passed the exam. Jiro Kyoka bit his lower lip and took deep breaths, trying not to let his thoughts wander. Don't worry, It's not just about passing the exam, our goal is 100 points. Anzhe cheered loudly, and some candidates who passed by looked over at him, thinking that what Anzhe said was too arrogant. Of course, he has absolute confidence in Jiro Kyoka to be so arrogant. If there is no accident, the actual combat assessment for Xiangying's admission should still be those robots. And Jiro Kyoka's quirks are their nemesis. Inserting the earphone cable into the gap of the iron plate, the sound wave attack alone is enough to destroy the imaginary machine enemies. Coupled with lightning magic, the strongest giant robot with no points will be defeated by Jiro Kyoka. Okay, you go to your business. Looking at the sight around her, the girl was thin-skinned, and said with some embarrassment. Okay, then when you finish the exam, let's meet in Xiangying's cafeteria. Anzhe nodded, and walked towards Xiangying's teaching building in another direction. He is an invited quota, and he does not need to take the actual combat test. This time he came here to accompany Jiro Kyoka on the one hand. On the other hand, other candidates are being assessed, and he wants some recommended students to also go through the admission procedures today. By the way, the recommended students also pass the recommended assessment. Anyway, Anzhe is enough to start school, let him, a professional hero, participate in the assessment for students, that is pure bullying. When Anzhe arrived at the teaching building, he didn't go to the principal's office where he went through the admission procedures, but came to the area of the support department. Here I want to popularize the difference between different classes in UA. High school. The Hero S department is based on the top-notch method, and medical students are trained to become Hero S for the purpose of fighting criminals. Among them, the teacher resources and school resources are the best. It can be said that as long as the students successfully graduate from the Hero S department, they will be the talents that Hero S firms all over the country are vying for. General subjects are roughly the same as Hero S subjects, and students are still trained according to the goal of Hero S, but it is a public education system, and resources are allocated in general, but it is much better than other schools UA. High school. Then there are two auxiliary classes, the business department and the support department. The business department is here to operate the firm, to deal with government agencies and the police internally, and to advertise the firm externally and in the media for commercial purposes, and the purpose of training is to be the indispensable talents in operation. Anzhe's office, Fairy Tale, will definitely be expanded in the future, and he plans to select a few talents in the business department to help manage it. Then there is the support department where Hatsume Mei is located. This is where the inventors gather, and even the classes are free. Because UA. High school rules are the most free, and the support department has brought this free system to the extreme. Taking classes step by step will only suppress students' creative minds. In free courses, you only need to keep developing and manufacturing. For example, now, Anzhe came to the workshop gate of the support department. It's not a normal classroom, but for an inventor madman, a workshop with complete equipment, materials and tools is the best classroom in the world. Anzhe had just stepped into the workshop when there were explosions in his ears, and his sight drifted to a girl with cherry hair. It is Hatsume Mei, ahem. But she looks a bit miserable now, with a disheveled face, coughing non-stop due to choking on the exploding and smoking equipment in her hands. Are you all right? Anzhe stepped forward and stroked Hatsume Mei's back with one hand. The magic fluorescence appeared in the palm of his hand, and the healing magic helped her solve the short-term physical discomfort. With the other hand, a small hurricane formed by a burst of magic power slipped out, completely suppressing the smoking equipment. It's okay, Xiao Jie, you're here. It's actually normal for this kind of failure to explode. Hatsume Mei smiled casually, and put the smoking equipment aside. Anzhe glanced around, and found that the other students in the workshop all looked familiar, and continued to concentrate on their own affairs. It seems that things like explosions are really a norm in the support department. By the way, the assessment time and content of the support section are completely different from those of normal candidates. Hatsume Mei passed the examination a few weeks ago with the invention of the boots of speed. Heroine's support department is nothing short of genius for Hatsume Mei. Because all materials will be provided here, all for free. Rich and powerful. In terms of funding alone, it is not comparable to other universities. Yo, Sorcerer Anzhe, are you here to go through the admission procedures? At this time, a man wearing excavator armor on his head greeted Anzhe. Yes, Master Power Loader. Anzhe responded politely. The person in front of him is a famous inventor in Professional Hero S and also a teacher of Hero Support Department. His quirks are Iron Claws, his birth name is Makari Mishima, and his Hero S name is Power Loader. Speaking of which, Anzhe came here with Hatsume Mei when he was supporting the exam. When testing the auxiliary equipment data, Anzhe's full speed is really amazing. It even makes the Power Loader feel that his speed is no less than that of All Might Quan, Zhao Qinhao under full force. Then the Power Loader teacher, I'm leaving first, Hatsume Mei, please take care of me, she will definitely blow up this workshop. Anzhe stroked Hatsume Mei's cherry-haired head. A slight bow to the Power Loader. No. The Power Loader shook his head with emotion, and looked at Anzhe meaningfully, as well as Hatsume Mei, whose head was touched by him but was full of smiles. Although Hatsume Mei makes explosions every now and then, her talent for invention is absolutely outstanding in the support department. As a teacher, he naturally cherishes his talents. He knows that as an inventor, it may be difficult for ordinary people in terms of money and achievements. But like love and emotion, common experiences that ordinary people have, are extremely difficult for inventors. And Anzhe, who left the support department, naturally didn't know what the Power Loader was thinking. He then went to the principal's office to go through the admission procedures. 080 Endeavor and Shoto Todoroki, conversation in the principal's room. The first update, please subscribe. Boom boom. Anzhe came to the door of the principal's office and tapped on the door twice. Soon a soft and cute voice came from inside, please come in. Anzhe opened the door and walked in. What appeared in sight was a cute and small mouse-like person, who was less than 1 meter tall, and could only look at him even when he was standing on the seat. The only fly in the ointment is that there is a hideous scar on his right eye. Mr. Principal, the principal of UA High School, his Quirks is a high-performance mind, which makes the IQ top. Don't look at him as a mouse, he has a very high status in the Hero S circle, and it is he who invited All Might to come to Hero S. Mr. Principal. Anzhe greeted him politely. Mage Anzhe, welcome to join Yingying. Mr. Principal, who was standing on the seat, jumped directly onto the table, stretched out his hand and said, although you have become a professional Hero S, I still hope that you can. Yingying studies hard and enjoys high school life. I will. Anzhe hurried over to shake hands, and after chatting for a while, Mr. Principal handed out a form. Fill in the general identity information, and Yingying will go through the process for him. At this moment, 2 figures, one large and one small, walked into the principal's office. Anzhe looked up, slightly startled, and there were 2 important people in my English. One is a Hero 020 who is covered in a flaming battlesuit and exudes a proud and fierce aura. The left half of the other person's face is red and the right half is white, a boy with a cold expression on his face. Endeavor, you are here, you are going through the enrollment procedures for your son. Mr. Principal said the identity of the person who said it, now number 2 on the Hero S bulletin board list, Flame Hero S Endeavor. And the boy next to him, of course, is his son, Shoto Todoroki, who owns half-burned half-cold Quirks. Shoto Todoroki, as one of Yingying's recommendation students, doesn't have to participate in today's actual entrance examination like other candidates. Well, Zhao Dong will fill in the information by himself. Endeavor spoke in a commanding tone, and Shoto Todoroki walked over without saying a word, with a little hatred in his eyes. It seems that the relationship between the father and son is as bad as ever. When Shoto Todoroki walked into Anzhe, he paused and looked at him. Competitive. The corners of Anzhe's mouth twitched happily, and immediately read the flame that seemed to be burning deep in Shoto Todoroki's left eye. Youthful in mind, aggressive and eager to win. This is especially true for Shoto Todoroki, who was known as a genius since he was a child. Although he hated his father, he was unwilling to use the half-burned Quirks on the left half. But because of this, he wants to use the half-coldness inherited from his mother on the right side to defeat all his peers and prove himself. And Anzhe is probably, in the eyes of Shoto Todoroki, the biggest difficulty in his way of proving. Without staying too long, Shoto Todoroki looked away and went to Mr. Principal to fill out the form. At the same time, Endeavor also had a panoramic view of all this, and said to Anzhe with interest, boy, the youngest professional Hero S, if my son can participate in the license examination, he will definitely be able to pass the examination and become a professional Hero SS. Essentially, Endeavor scooped up Shoto Todoroki, taking it all in. Especially when Shoto Todoroki has reached the rebellious stage, he has been trying to solve the stupid stubbornness of not using half-burning Quirks. Now this candidate appeared, Anzhe was about the same age as Shoto Todoroki. Just now, Shoto Todoroki's fighting eyes made Endeavor very satisfied. If in battle, he finds that he can't beat his opponent with only one side of Quirks, then his rebellious son will definitely be forced out of the other side of Quirks. Although Quirks is arrogant, Endeavor never underestimates or belittles others. At least Anzhe, who passed the license exam, believes that Shoto Todoroki is definitely not winning at this stage. But as long as Shoto Todoroki plays Quirks on the other side, Anzhe will never beat him. Confidence. This is a father's confidence in his children. It is his self-confidence to create Quirks with 2 abilities that perfectly complement each other in order to defeat All Might. But no matter what, Anzhe has absolute confidence, he will only get stronger. If AJCI fruit. Anzhe snorted disdainfully, making Endeavor raise his eyebrows. All the ifs in the world are just failures that cannot be achieved. And I who have achieved the ifs are the only ones who succeed. Anzhe clenched his fists, speaking in a tone of fact, with proud confidence and arrogance appearing on his face. Ha ha ha, interesting boy, no wonder you can pass the license exam. Endeavor laughed loudly. This kind of character with absolute confidence in himself happened to be the type he admired. Professional Hero S should be like this. Endeavor, who is number 2 in 10,000 years, has always been pushed behind by All Might. Looking at all the professional Hero S in the country, Endeavor is the only one who wants to surpass All Might and keep challenging. Even if it is to marry and have children, to create stronger Quirks, he will make his offspring surpass All Might. Strive for the top, in order to become number 1, the only winner. I hope that after school starts, the annual Heroes Sports Festival will not disappoint me, the match between you and my son. Shoto Todoroki filled out the form and returned to Endeavor. He finished Endeavor's declaration of war for his son, and turned to leave. Just as he stepped through the door, he suddenly remembered something, and asked with his back turned, by the way, what's your kid's name? Here Anzhe will not answer his natal Anzhe foolishly. Endeavor's question is a recognition of himself as a professional Hero S. Wizard. I remember the name. Then, both Endeavor and Shoto Todoroki left the principal's office completely. Mr. Principal, who was eating melons all the time, showed a playful smile at this moment. He was somewhat looking forward to Anzhe and Shoto Todoroki, who would be the more outstanding one among the two talented boys. Then Mr. Principal, I'm leaving too. Anzhe bid farewell. He had already filled out the form, and just talked with Endeavor for a while. As soon as he turned around, another figure walked into the headmaster's office. It was a girl. The girl's face is painted with light makeup, and her big eyes reveal wisdom and tenderness. Unlike Anzhe's impression, the girl didn't wear ponytails, but spread them out, and draped them straight and softly on her back. The dignified and virtuous first impression stunned Anzhe for a moment. The girl was wearing a brown coat on the outside, and a red senior sweater on the inside. Although they were all loose clothes, they still couldn't cover her proud bust. Another important person in my English and Chinese. The girl's name is Yaoyorozu Momo. 081 Yaoyorozu Momo, Jiro Kyoka's actual combat assessment. Second update, please subscribe. Yaoyorozu Momo, are you the only one here today? Mr. Principal took out another form, and the girl in front of her was also one of the recommended students to go through the admission procedures. My father is busy with business, and I'm an adult, so I don't need to worry them too much. Yaoyorozu Momo smiled politely and explained softly. Her demeanor has the style of a young lady, and she is also very polite, and her gentle smile is very lethal. Hi, may I, what's the matter? Yaoyorozu Momo found that Anzhe's eyes were staring at him all the time, so he asked suspiciously. Anzhe was not embarrassed, and asked knowingly. My name is Anzhe. I remember that there is a consortium whose chairman is also named Yaoyorozu Wan. I don't know. It's my father. Yaoyorozu Momo generously admits her background. She deserves to be a rich lady, and what is even more rare is that she has a very good family education, without any arrogant attitude that is not pampered. Yaoyorozu Momo, Quirks is creation, which can freely create anything other than living organisms with its own fat. This is the quirks that all women dream of. No matter how you eat, you won't gain weight. Anyway, you can use quirks to burn fat. My firm is in a building owned by your father's consortium, and I want to visit your father for business talks in the near future. Anzhe smiled and stated his purpose, to attract investment. The asset capacity of the Yaoyorozu Wan consortium can also be described as rich and powerful. Looking at the whole country, it is also one of the best. On the one hand, the operation and expansion of the firm requires investment to provide property support. On the other hand, to promote magic, Anzhe had already drawn up a plan, through Yaoyorozu Momo's father. Hey, are you the one who became a professional hero S in the second year of middle school, and hero S as a magician? Yaoyorozu Momo opened her mouth slightly and exclaimed, although she always looked he looks mature, but in fact he is just a junior high school student who just graduated. It's right down. Anzhe also generously admitted, reminding Yaoyorozu Momo of what her father said to her. It's nothing more than praising Anzhe. Even her father is planning to invest in Anzhe's firm, but he is still waiting and watching at this stage. The so-called children of other people's families, Anzhe is one of them. Then I leave. Anzhe didn't talk too much, stopped talking and left the principal's room. This kind of accidental encounter should be told to her father when Yaoyorozu Momo goes back. If there is no accident at that time, it is estimated that in the few days before Yingying starts school, the Yaoyorozu Wan consortium will take the initiative to find him to invest. Anzhe, who left the principal's office, came to the invigilator's room again. Under the introduction of Kongui Soul, Anzhe has long been acquainted with Yingying's teachers, and they are not surprised by his arrival. Although Anzhe felt that Jiro Kyoka would definitely pass the actual combat assessment, he still had some worries, so he came to observe her performance through the screen. It seems that the actual combat assessment has only started not long ago. Apart from the examinees, there are a lot of robots on the screen. It seems that just as he guessed, the content of the entrance examination for Yingying has not changed. At this time, Anzhe saw the figure of Jiro Kyoka on a screen. She was obviously still a little nervous, looking for the figure of the robot. You can get points by defeating the robot, and if the score is more than 60 points, you will pass the assessment of the hero S subject. Suddenly, a robot menacingly attacked Jiro Kyoka. But Jiro Kyoka dodged the attack with a light jump to the side, and then inserted her quirks and earphone wires precisely into the gaps in the iron skin of the robot. Boom. Within 2 strokes, the robot seemed to be destroyed from the inside, smoking and paralyzed. 1 point. Very easy. Seeing this, Anzhe was also relieved, and Jiro Kyoka on the screen also knew his own strength, and his expression seemed no longer nervous. Gradually, 10 robots, 30 robots. The speed of defeating is too fast, and almost a robot is defeated as soon as the headphone cable is plugged in. Jiro Kyoka's performance also made the teachers around Anzhe talk a lot. Until through the screen, I could feel the ground of the exam venue shaking, like an earthquake. Super giant robot appears. It was taller than the building next to it, at least more than 50 meters tall, and it didn't seem like an existence that could be defeated by manpower. The most important thing is this super giant robot, which doesn't have any points. As a result, most of the candidates in the examination venue ran away desperately. Some of them did not have enough scores to be admitted, but compared to not being admitted by Yingying, their lives could not be saved if they stayed in the exam venue. 0. Seeking flowers. In addition, some candidates, because of the shocking pressure brought by the supergiant robot, were so frightened that they could not move and collapsed on the ground. It's not that they are timid. Normal human beings are instinctively afraid of completely unknown and dangerous things, and being in them will amplify this emotion dozens of times, and those with poor psychological quality will almost collapse. Under the camera in the monitoring room, only 2 people rushed towards the giant robot actively. Because the examination venue is divided into 7 areas, these 2 people are not in the same area. One of them is Green Valley Izuku, who inherited OFA, and in order to save a girl who fell down, he attacked the super giant robot with all his strength. And the other person is Jiro Kyoka. Her score has already exceeded 60 points, but she remembered what Anzhe told her. Goal 100 points. This specific score is actually an attitude. It just so happens that Jiro Kyoka also wants to know his own strength and how far he has reached. Then, Jiro Kyoka on the screen slid down to the bottom of the giant robot. Although why she looks scary, the flexibility of the super giant robot is not enough, not to mention that it is not as good as human conditioned reflex, and it needs to judge by sensors before attacking. Jiro Kyoka inserted the earphone cable into the gap of the iron plate exactly the same. Sonic attack. Not only that, but golden lightning flashed all over her body, flowing along the headphone cable to the giant robot. A shot of thunder magic. In the next moment, lightning flashed from the body of the super giant robot, its arms, legs and even its torso were completely paralyzed. Under the attack of another current, the electronic components in various parts inside suddenly short-circuited and exploded. Boom. Of course, Anzhe and others in the monitoring room couldn't hear the sound, but there was an explosion sound in their ears. Because the huge robot on the screen exploded directly. The huge body turned into countless parts and fragments, which were scattered all over the entire examination venue like rain. What a shock. Anzhe glanced around the monitoring room, several teachers' eyes widened in surprise, and the corners of their mouths raised. This is just a small step. Let people all over the world gradually understand what magic is, and the heaven of magic. 082 Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan, build a magic team. The third update, please subscribe. Heroic Canteen. The chef is a professional hero, who is called a cooking hero, and it is very nice that you can enjoy first-class cuisine at a low price in a large dining hall. At this time, a young girl stood in front of the cafeteria, looking around, as if looking for someone. The girl's dark purple short hair and slanted bangs give people a hearty feeling. The flesh-fitting trousers perfectly reveal her long legs, and the slightly dusty white sneakers also look full of vitality. Jiro Kyoka. Although she didn't know the test scores and results, she calculated the points she got from defeating the robot, which was more than enough to pass the hero's subject. So she stood on tiptoe and put it down. The joy in her heart was beyond words. Anzhe. At this time, a long-delayed figure appeared in Jiro Kyoka's field of vision, and she shouted excitedly. Congratulations, you even defeated that giant robot. Anzhe walked over, feeling that the girl's posture at the moment was very cute, and reached out to touch her dark purple head. Hey, Anzhe, how do you know? I was in the monitoring room just now, so I came late for July 13th. Anzhe explained, looking towards the big canteen. Come and taste the taste of Yingying canteen, I treat you. Jiro Kyoka smiled and followed behind Anzhe. Today is the end of February. After the actual entrance examination, it will take more than 2 weeks for the notice to be issued, and then it will be the day when Yingying starts school. The food in Yingying canteen is naturally quite delicious. It seems that there is no need to worry about food in the 3 years of high school. After all, the canteen in the high school in the previous life was so bad that Anzhe lost several pounds. Then, the two went back to their respective homes, and Jiro Kyoka had to share the joy with his parents. And Anzhe, who had nothing to do, went to the office to inspect and took over the task of patrolling the area by the way, and the day passed like that. In March, spring is gradually rising, and flowers and plants are born. But the temperature is still a bit low, because Japan is only an island country. Anzhe, who was staying in the office of the building office, received a call. Yaoyorozu Wan Foundation. In name, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan came to inspect the building, but the purpose was to discuss cooperation and investment relationship with Anzhe. Anzhe also called Yang Taekwon and asked him, the legal counsel, to help with specific matters. In the afternoon, 2 figures appeared at the door of Anzhe's office. The leading middle-aged man was wearing a suit jacket for work, and the leather shoes under his feet could be seen as high-end goods at a glance. However, the dark circles on his eyes are enough to show the great pressure of his work. Hello, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan, I didn't expect that I would come to my office in person. Anzhe, who had been waiting at the door for a long time, stepped forward to greet Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan. Yunai Takefumi looked at each other behind the other party, dressed like a secretary, and nodded. Ashamed, I just came here for inspection. I heard that you have a relationship with my little girl, and I also want to meet you out of curiosity. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan shook hands with Anzhe in a calm tone, his eyes were full of appreciation, and he gave Anzhe enough respect. Please. So, a group of 4 people walked into the office and came to Anzhe's desk. Several receptionists served the prepared tea, and several professional heroes, including MT. Lady, also looked over nervously. The firm they are also concerned about, or the bonus, all depends on whether the meeting with Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan can attract his investment in the firm. I didn't expect Mr. Takefumi Yane to be the legal counsel of Fairy Tale Firm. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan turned his head and looked. Takefumi Yane was well known in the circle of prosecutors. Youth has unlimited potential and vitality, and I also want to repay Xiaoyuan for saving his life. Oh, is there such a thing? Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan showed curiosity, and they started a conversation about the flamingo incident. Indeed, as Takefumi Yane said, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan valued Anzhe's youth and promise. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come over in person, and the so-called inspection was just a formality. Then let's invest. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan's secretary and Yanai Takefumi both have their own expertise in this area, and they compete for each other's interests. Once the investment is reached, the Yaoyorozu Wan consortium will send a special broker to make a series of publicity plans for all professional heroes under Anzhe's agency, just like the process of an artist star. In addition, there are many other matters, of course nothing more than money related. Compared to the fierce battle between these two people, Anzhe and Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan seem like a pair of friends who have forgotten their years talking about some interesting things at home. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan, your dark circles are a bit serious, you should pay attention to rest. Anzhe said with concern, but he was thinking in his heart, how to make magic accepted by Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan and promote it. There is no way, the long-term accumulation of fatigue in the body due to hard work when I was young cannot be solved by medical means. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan shook his head helplessly. He himself could feel his body weakening rapidly, but even if he was rich in his family, he couldn't stop it very well. He could only improve slowly with recuperation methods. What if I have another way to help you, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan, to solve your frailty, and to relieve the frailty of age? Would you like to try it? Hearing this, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan sat up straight and paid great attention to it. Although Anzhe was very young, he didn't think Anzhe would joke about such things. Therefore, Anzhe explained the concept of magic under the surprised eyes of Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan. Magic. Let's not talk about the truth, such a precious thing, is it really okay to teach me? Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan frowned. If it is really according to Anzhe's explanation, the maintenance of magic power can indeed be achieved. Help him solve the physical condition that occurs frequently in middle age. But he was a businessman, caught in hesitation. A businessman is profit-oriented and never thinks that there will be pies falling from the sky. He is hesitating what price he needs to pay. Of course there is a price to be charged. Anzhe smiled, read Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan's mind, and stated his purpose. Reassurance is not a sky-high requirement, what I need is investment. Invest. This investment is not an ongoing investment by Yanai Takefumi and his secretary, but... Yes, I need your investment in magic. After a moment of silence, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan bowed his head and meditated. He was thinking about the meaning of the promotion of the word magic. That will definitely be an epic-making reform, no different from the two industrial revolutions at the beginning of the birth of Quirks. I agree with the 4 words hero, boy more and more, this ambition. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan looked at Anzhe with a complicated expression. How dare he think of him as a teenager? It can be said that he was completely terrified by what Anzhe wanted to do. Epic making. Such an ambition. I can't imagine it was only proposed by a teenager who just graduated from junior high school. Finally, after thinking for a long time, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan took a deep breath, his eyes burning. If magic really exists, I am willing to invest in it. A businessman is selfish, and a successful businessman must be selfish. Compared with the influence of magic, he cares more about his body, the magic that helps him solve his physical problems. Pleasant cooperation. The corners of Anzhe's mouth rose, and he reached out his hand again to hold each other. It was getting late and the sun was setting. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan and his secretary have left. Regarding the investment in Anzhe Office 5.0, Takefumi Yanai has already negotiated with the secretary of Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan. Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan has also obtained the method of magic power cultivation. After he successfully cultivates, the rent of all floors of this building will be provided to Anzhe for free. With the scale of Anzhe's office, there is definitely no need for so many floors now, so these spare floors are for magic. A week later, Chairman Yaoyorozu Wan approached Anzhe again. He successfully practiced to perceive the magic power, and nourished his body with magic power, and felt the obvious benefits. He will send a group of people to practice magic in the star range based on the scope of this building except the office floor. Build the first team capable of mastering magic. In a blink of an eye, another week passed, and the establishment of the magic team was proceeding in an orderly manner. And Anzhe has just become a high school freshman at UA High School and is about to enroll. 083 The first day of enrollment, Class A of the first grade. Fourth update, please subscribe. High school life begins. In fact, nothing has changed. I wake up with a fixed biological clock, take a shower and eat the breakfast prepared by Bakugo before going out. Good morning, Anzhe. Good morning, Kyoka. The two childhood sweethearts live in similar houses, so naturally they go to school together. The difference is that the school uniforms on both of them have become the uniforms of UA High School. Jiro Kyoka is wearing a white shirt with a gray jacket, a red tie for first grade, and a dark green miniskirt. From now on, I am a student of UA High School, the top university in the country. Jiro Kyoka patted his face, muttering to himself, still in an uncanny trance. In fact, she was nurtured by her parents since she was a child, and she is very talented in music. If she failed to pass the Hero S subject and become a Hero S, she might choose a music school. Continue to sigh, be careful to be late. Anzhe smiled slightly, he was also looking forward to entering Yingying. What kind of changes will happen to the original plot of this part? There's still a lot of time, how can I be late? Jiro Kyoka stuck out his tongue playfully, and the two walked to school, chatting all the way to the gate of UA High School. Although it is not the first time to come here, Anzhe still thinks that Yingying is really big enough. For a high school, it is a bit too big. Our class in 2009 is Class A, Grade 1. Searching along the corridor of the teaching building, after a while, Anzhe and Jiro Kyoka came to their classroom. The classroom door is so big. Looking at the door that was higher than the three of them stacked together, Anzhe once again sighed for his wealth, opened the door and walked in. Immediately, several people who had already arrived in the classroom looked at the two of them. Here comes another woman. Cut, it's a poor breast. A small man with a bunch of purple orbs on his head, his eyes fixed on the underside of Jiro Kyoka's neck, turned his head to the other side in boredom. He's Minoru Mineta, the super sticky grape that Quirks can throw balls off of his head, and he's a lecherous kid who likes women so much, it's kind of funny. By the way, he still doesn't know how frighteningly sensitive his words have offended girls. Jiro Kyoka walked over and put the earphone cable in Minoru Mineta's hand, when the latter just turned his head and was poked by something. Zzz. The golden electric current sizzled, accompanied by Minoru Mineta twitching, and fainted on the chair. Then, Jiro Kyoka snorted coldly and walked to his table. It always feels a little scary. Anzhe clicked his tongue. He knew that Kyoka controlled the electric current to a level that would not hurt anyone, but no one would want to try the feeling of being electrocuted. Because everyone's seats were allocated, Jiro Kyoka and Anzhe separated, and Anzhe also went to his own seat. Gaze around the classroom. A guy with skyrocketing red hair who looks very hot-blooded, he is watching himself. Yo, hello, I'm Kirishima Eijiro. Kirishima Eijiro, Quirks is a hardened, very hot-blooded boy. Hi, my name is Anne. Regarding Kirishima Eijiro's greeting, although Anzhe was surprised how he suddenly came to him, he also introduced himself politely. Suddenly all the students around looked at Anzhe. Are you the Anzhe who passed the Hero S license in the second year of junior high school, and the Hero S is called a wizard? Anzhe nodded and admitted generously, after all, he is also a celebrity. The most intuitive display is his well-known points, which have already stored 35,000 points. At this time, the teacher's door was violently opened, and the eyes of the surrounding students were attracted. Bakugo Katsuki, with an afro, walked in with his hands in his pockets and his school bag on his back. That posture perfectly explained what is the pace of disapproval. He happened to see Anzhe, his steps froze instantly, and he even took 2 steps back. Sure enough, you are here too, remember, sooner or later I will kill you. A provocative declaration, but from Bakugo's mouth, he is not very confident. After speaking, he walked past Anzhe, walked to his place, and put his legs directly on the table as if venting, as if he was the best in the world. Is he your friend? Kirishima Eijiro asked suspiciously, looking at Bakugo Katsuki who was crooked. Well, a friend who can provide me with some fun. Looking at Anzhe with a sinister smile on his face, Kirishima shivered and returned to his seat. On the seat to the left of Anzhe is a hair that looks a bit like a frog. She stared at Anzhe and said, my name is Asui Suyu, Anzhe Sauce. Then it's okay for me to call you Suyu-chan. The girl was slightly taken aback, she thought Anzhe would be surprised by this name, and just wanted to explain. In fact, Anzhe knows the characteristics of Asui Suyu, he is straightforward, and hopes to build a good relationship with others, so he likes to call others XX Sauce, and let others call himself Suyu Sauce. Asui Suyu has long black-green hair, dark green pupils, and a bow made of hair in the lower part of the long hair. She looks like a frog, but she is actually one whose appearance is influenced by quirks, and her quirks are frogs. It imitates the existence of a frog from the outside to the inside, that is, it has a long tongue of a frog. Allow him to have a bold idea. Cough cough. Anzhe shook his head not to think about it, he looked towards the door, and as time went by, other students also arrived one by one. A strange guy with a bird's head, Tokiyami Stalks. The man with the big tail, Ojiro Mashirao. The man with the bandaged wrist, Shiro Honta. A strong man with several arms, Shoji hid himself. There are also Kaminari Denki, Aoyama Yuga, Sato Rikido, Kota Koji and other students of Class A of Grade 1 who have not changed the original plot. At this time, the familiar pink-haired girl and Yaoyorozu Momo, who was in a fluffy single ponytail, also walked in. Yaoyorozu Momo's seat is just to the right of Anzhe, and the two greeted each other politely. And the familiar pink-haired girl sat in front of Anzhe. She turned around as soon as she got to her seat and grabbed Anzhe's hands with both hands. Do you remember me? My name is Ashido Mina. I was rescued by the Iron Shark and my classmates that day. The girl named Ashido Mina's eyes widened, her joy was undisguised. Very enthusiastic. Certainly. Feeling the soft touch of the girl's hands, Anzhe said with a light cough. I've always wanted to thank you in person, but never had the chance. Ashido Mina was still talking enthusiastically, holding Anzhe's hand with both hands, which made the latter a little bit unbearable. Not referring to Ashido Mina, but the extremely cold breath coming from a certain direction. Jiro Kyoka is clenching his teeth and looking over at him. Finally, after 857 thanked Ashido Mina, she let go. Anzhe let out a sigh of relief, and continued to look around. Just now, a fine school uniform floating in the air walked in. Actually Toru Hagakuri, Quirks is an invisible girl who is invisible. There was also Shoto Todoroki who was looking at him in the principal's office full of fighting spirit. His seat was by the window, and after sitting down, he looked out of the window without saying a word, did not talk to the people around him, and gave off a very lonely feeling. Immediately afterwards, a young man who looked like a disciplinary committee member walked in. He saw Bakugo with his legs up on the table and argued with him directly about it. Putting your feet on the desk, don't you think it's disrespectful to Shangying seniors and the desk maker? The boy, still wearing a pair of glasses, said in a dissatisfied tone, more and more like a Miyoshi student card. Ah, I don't think so. Which junior high school are you from? A small supporting role. Bakugo Katsuki, who was already a little upset when he saw Anzhe, made his tone even worse. I came from a private smart middle school, Ida. The two were still arguing. Anzhe didn't look at them anymore, but turned to the door. The last two arrived. A petite-looking girl with a round pie face, Uraraka Ochako. And that green algae head. It's been a long time since Izuku Midoriya inherited OFA and successfully entered the Hero S department. Looking forward to it a little bit. Now that everyone in Class A, Grade 1 is here, the corners of Anzhe's mouth are slightly raised, and the time of Yingying will definitely be very interesting. 084 Quirks Mastery Test that can be pretended to start. The first update, please subscribe. Unveiling Tim Walls, the inspiring story of his family. More. 597. 149. 199. I'm talking about you. Can you please be quiet? A weak and decadent voice suddenly came from outside the classroom door. The students who were talking to each other in the classroom gradually stopped talking and looked over. What appeared outside the door was a sleeping bag that looked like a giant caterpillar. Except for Anzhe, everyone else was stunned. The name of Aizawa Shota, Hero S, is translated as Eraser Head Hero S, and Quirks as erasing, which eliminates the quirks of people in your field of vision by looking at them. But it can only deal with the change system and the deformation system, and the release system and Asui Suyu's frog quirks, so the villains of the body abnormalities system is invalid. Okay, it took 8 seconds to finally be quiet, the time is limited, you are irrational. The next moment, a messy shawl-length black hair appeared from the sleeping bag. He looked very greasy, with a shaggy beard, and stared at the uncle with dead fish eyes. There was still a liquid food bag hanging by his mouth, with a listless look. I am your homeroom teacher Aizawa Shota, please take care of me. Hey, time's N. All the students exclaimed. It was hard to believe that this uncle with dead fish eyes, slovenly appearance, and as weak as a kidney deficiency would be their head teacher. Although it is said that a beautiful head teacher or something basically does not exist in reality, or is someone else's teacher. But at least as the best Hero S college among the Hero S, the head teacher must have a calm appearance, and a person who wears a standard suit makes people feel mature and stable, right? Disillusioned, Aizawa Shota ignored the stunned student, took out a tracksuit from his sleeping bag and said, "Don't waste time, you all put on this tracksuit and hurry to the playground." Everyone still followed Aizawa Shota to the playground. Looking around, the empty playground made people feel a little small. Yingying is so rich. Quirks Mastery Test. Everyone in Class A, Grade 1 exclaimed. They didn't expect such a thing to come to the playground. Of course, it is still above Anzhe. Because the first day of general enrollment should be the entrance ceremony, campus visit and other items. When you were in junior high school, you all participated in the physical fitness test without any quirks. Aizawa Shota introduced with eyes closed. The so-called physical fitness tests include softball throwing, 50-meter running, endurance running, standing long jump, grip strength, repeated horizontal jumps, sit-ups and sitting forward bends. It's really unreasonable not to allow the use of quirks. Aizawa Shota complained. By the way, Yingying's school spirit is quite free, and he can freely use quirks in school. Aizawa Shota first glanced at Jiro Kyoka, then turned to look at Anzhe, and said, I originally planned to let the person who won the first place in the actual combat test come, but as students, there is a professional Hero S, so Sorcerer Anzhe, come on. All the students were also very surprised, not to Anzhe, but to Jiro Kyoka, a girl with deep purple oblique bangs. Because the results of the actual combat test were not announced, but according to Aizawa Shota's sight and words, this unattractive girl is the first. How many meters did you throw a softball in junior high? Anzhe twitched the corner of his mouth. Usually during the test in the first year of junior high school, can he answer that he hadn't crossed over at that time? I can't remember. Anyway, it's not more than 100 meters. Aizawa Shota nodded casually, not paying attention to Anzhe's perfunctory. He took out a softball, pointed to the starting circle of Jung's softball and said, then you throw it again with quirks. Any way to use quirks. Anyway, Anzhe took the softball and played with it. Do you want to make a full shot? This test is a bit boring, and it's mostly for Izuku. Green Valley Izuku's mastery of OFA is too low, and Aizawa Shota absolutely does not allow the situation where Yaoyorozu can be killed by 1,000 enemies. As a class teacher, although he looks very sloppy, he is undoubtedly a very responsible and caring person for students. From the original plot, it can be seen that he really intends to let Lugu drop out of school. Letting others drop out of school just after entering school, wouldn't the pressure on him be less? Yingying is not a teacher like him, and he already expelled all the students from a class last year. Therefore, there is no sophomore in the Hero S subject of undulating Hawan, who is promoted to the 3rd year of high school, and Anzhe's first year of high school, Yingying. After all, with Aizawa Shota's attitude, a person who can't even control his own quirks, even if he barely enters the school, cannot become a qualified Hero S. Obviously there is no hope, but he insists on stepping forward. It will only bring tragedy and disaster to myself and even the people around me. Then let's play with all our strength. Anzhe circulated the magic power in his body, and instantly everyone around felt a chill. Style of ice. Ice and snow cannon. Anzhe started to draw the bow with both hands, the ice blue magic circle appeared, and a huge cannon with an ice shell appeared in everyone's eyes. Isn't it softball throwing? Everyone was stunned, looking at the cannon in front of them. The voice of all their staff was What are you doing? Stop it. This isn't throwing a softball at all. Throwing a softball should be done with one foot forward, with strength from the waist upwards, and finally the movement of throwing the arm violently. Backquote 2nd Battalion Commander, where's your F*********** G Italian cannon? Anzhe muttered to himself and played with the stem, placed the ice and snow cannon on the starting circle, and stepped on the tail end of the cannon. Adjust the angle, look into the distance, and make sure not to hit any flowers, plants, or innocent passers-by. Immediately afterwards, Anzhe held the palm of the softball, and a gust of wind entangled it out of thin air. Hoo-hoo. The violent airflow made the eyes of the people around them almost blind, and the girls in the class pressed their hands on their heads, and their hairstyles couldn't be prevented from being messed up. Anzhe is using the Dragon Slayer magic in the sky to add a blast magic power to the softball. He then tucked the softball into the muzzle of the ice cannon and pointed it skyward. 3, 2, 1, launch. Did you think Anzhe could throw a softball like a normal guy? Since you can use quirks freely, of course you have to play it well. Good jow jow, like a cannonball, the softball flew towards the stars and blue sky, driven by the powerful magic power inside the ice and snow cannon. Watching Anzhe's move of using quirks, Aizawa Shota secretly appreciated that he is indeed the youngest professional hero in history. Exceeding 5 kilometers, Aizawa Shota looked at the softball that did not fall, still cut through the air, and continued to fly, and reported the maximum value of the sensor. In other words, Anzhe threw a shot that exceeded the distance measured. So scary. It's okay, I threw it well. Anzhe clapped his hands, turned around and found that everyone was looking at him with slight eyes. Throw a ghost. You don't use your hands at all, do you? What a softball throw. All the students in Class A, Year 1, complained crazily in their hearts. However, Shang Dao replied with too much satisfaction, it's a good throw. Everyone. 085 Mentoring Midoriya Izuku, the conditions for becoming a class president that inspires competitiveness. Second update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 336. 84. 112. Aizawa Shota glanced at the students who were messing around in the wind, and said, as I said at the beginning, this is the Quirks mastery test. The key point is to use quirks, but you can do anything within the starting circle. I see, that's very interesting. Yeah, it looks like fun. You can use quirks as much as you want, worthy of a hero. All the students who understood the meaning of the Aizawa Shota test immediately exploded into heated discussions, and everyone looked eager to try, wanting to release the quirks that have been suppressed and used. Tisk. Looking at the excited students in front of him, Aizawa Shota clicked his tongue lightly and poured a bucket of cold water on them. Isn't it fun? Do you want to spend the 3 years of high school in order to become hero with this mentality? Aizawa Shota's gloomy face and terrifying aura exuded from his body made everyone tremble. Becoming a hero is not easy, even in the hero family of heroes. If you have an attitude of playing casually, you will definitely see the cruelty of reality. Aizawa Shota's first step is to dispel the general mentality of the students who just entered the school. He showed a devilish smile and said, very well, then I will regard the last place in the total score of the 8 items as impossible. X, expulsion from school. Immediately, the noise stopped abruptly, only the sound of the howling wind. Silence. Shock and silence enveloped the heads of the 330 students. Why? The students who recovered from the shock looked at Aizawa Shota in disbelief. The first class will expel students, which is too unreasonable. Yingying's school ethos is freedom, and it's the same for teachers. So I think what you do as students is also my freedom as a teacher. Welcome to Hero's division of Hero High School. Aizawa Shota's words weighed heavily on the hearts of most students, but a few strong students didn't feel it. But some people who are not sure about their own quirks and strength, let alone other people's quirks and strength, they all start to panic. Among them, Green Valley Izuku is the most popular one. He is still unable to adjust the output of OFA, and he can only use it once by disabling an arm, but there are a total of 8 test items. What should he do? Relax, calm down. At this time, a hand with sharp bones was placed on his shoulder. Hearing this voice, Green Valley Izuku turned around abruptly, and it was Arrow who appeared in his sight. This quirks test, Mr. Aizawa is for you, Anzhe said. What? Anzhe put his finger on his lips, and Green Valley also stopped his voice and calmed down slowly. The people around were still thinking about what Aizawa Shota said just now, and no one noticed the movements of Anzhe and Green Valley Izuku, AJCJ. The quirks mastery test is meaningless to those of us who are proficient in using quirks, but the test is for you who have not fully mastered quirks. The information revealed by Anzhe made Green Valley Izuku's eyes widen to express his inner surprise at the moment. Green Valley Izuku asked in a low voice, Anzhe, how do you know that I haven't fully mastered quirks yet? All Might told me about you, so I know you're his next heir. Anzhe made up a reason at random, and Green Valley Izuku didn't doubt it, but murmured about the heir. Got OFA like a dream, went from quirkless to quirks. While Green Valley Izuku was excited, he also felt very inferior and suspicious of himself. He was worried that he would not have the talent to inherit All Might. But the first time he was said to be the heir was Anzhe, the second career hero he admired, which gave him great confidence. Think about it, how to use OFA continuously until the end of 8 tests without crippling one arm. Anzhe stopped talking to Green Valley. In his opinion, Green Valley's combat potential and talent are very good. His scorched black notebook, which records the analysis of various information, brain-type hero S. In the original plot, he could figure out a way by himself, let alone Anzhe reminded him now. So, Green Valley Izuku lowered his head, his brain frantically turned to think about what Anzhe said, and gradually his eyes lit up. He knows what to do. Anzhe, thank you very much for your guidance. Green Valley Izuku bowed deeply to Anzhe from the bottom of his heart, raised his head, his eyes were piercing, and asked a puzzle in his heart, why he wanted to help me. Quote. Why? It's just out of interest. Anzhe smiled and continued. It would be boring to walk too far ahead. I want you to grow up quickly and grow to a height that can provide me with some fun. Hearing what Anzhe said, Green Valley Izuku swallowed in horror, speaking so arrogantly. Rather, it is true that students have become professional heroes like a lonely king sitting on the supreme throne. It's too boring. His peers were left far behind, so he looked forward to the day when an opponent would appear under his feet to challenge him. Plus ultra. Try your best, ride the wind and waves, come on, the next step is the real test. Quote. And when Green Valley Izuku deeply felt that Anzhe was very scary, Aizawa Shota also finished his speech, persuading the psychological dissatisfaction of the students. Aizawa Shota glanced at Anzhe and Green Valley Izuku, he had been silently observing them just now. Offer help, advice. He also knew that All Might had invited Anzhe to be the next OFA, and he also knew that Anzhe had rejected All Might's invitation. There is also the current Green Valley Izuku, who is the heir of All Might. He didn't interfere, or he didn't think that Anzhe could help Green Valley Izuku with a few words. The only one who can really make a change is Lu Jiyu himself, the moment he shows that he has the possibility. Aizawa Shota glanced at the other students, all of them looked unmotivated and unmotivated. Because the test is a kind of competition, but the existence of Anzhe makes them feel that no matter how good they are, it is impossible to get the first place in the total score and not the bottom one, so they are very boring. I always feel that some of you are still bored. Aizawa Shota turned his head to look at Anzhe again, with that kind look in his eyes. Anzhe, who just happened to look over and looked at each other, felt that this guy was going to do something. Sure enough, the next moment, Aizawa Shota said to everyone, let's add one more thing, whoever among you can surpass Anzhe and become the first in any item in the test, then whoever is in Class A of the first grade monitor. As soon as the words fell, Anzhe instantly felt several eyes full of desire and competition, Bakugo Katsuki, Shoto Todoroki, Yaoyorozu Momo, Iida Ida. Undoubtedly, the existence of Anzhe made them unanimously considered the biggest obstacle to winning the first place. Xiangying's hero S class leader corresponds to a kind of popularity, but will receive a lot of attention from the outside world. This will be of great help to future hero S roads. Originally, they all thought that Anzhe, a professional hero S, would never surpass him in total score. But now, among the 8 items, as long as they can exceed one item, they can become monitors. The allure of this condition immediately filled those who were unable to motivate themselves with fighting spirit. This time, I will step on you hard and become the squad leader. Bakugo Katsuki rushed to Heian first, his eyes full of high fighting spirit. After being hurt by Anzhe before, Bakugo returned home and doubled his usual training. After being rescued by Anzhe later, Bakugo even doubled the already exaggerated amount of training. His self-esteem is urging him all the time to defeat the mountain-like existence of Anzhe. Anzhe didn't pay attention to Bakugo alone, but glanced at everyone. He really felt that this test was a bit interesting, and said arrogantly, HMPH, since this is the case, let you understand clearly that you and me who are professional hero S, how big is the gap? Arousing the competition among the students, Aizawa Shota showed a triumphant smile and said, the first test, the 50-meter run, the first group, Engine Bakugo Katsuki. 08650-meter run, Anzhe's terrifying speed. The third update, please subscribe. Bakugo Katsuki showed an excited smile that suited me, and walked to the runway with Anzhe, posing for a run. His Quirks explosion, which is derived from the sweat of nitroglycerin flowing out of the palm, freely makes it explode. In the season when the weather is cooler and it is not easy to sweat, his Quirks ability will be greatly weakened. For this reason, Bakugo kept rubbing his hands to generate heat, and he had already wiped off the sweat. But Anzhe looked at the little black mud that Bakugo threw away casually, and felt a little dirty with the cleanliness. Aizawa showed his loud countdown. Everyone on your marks. Get ready. Boom. The voice just fell. Blasting. Bakugo Katsuki, who was highly focused, took the lead and rushed out, stretching his hands behind him and using the thrust generated by the blasting Quirks to push him forward. But Anzhe was still standing there, not doing anything, his mouth slightly murmured. What is Anzhe doing? Could it be that he didn't react? It's impossible. For Anzhe's failure to act immediately, all the students in the class showed puzzled expressions, except Jiro Kyoka. She knew that Anzhe was chanting a magic spell, so she used all her strength. God feet. The galloping wind. The next moment, 2 magic circles appeared, and Anzhe finally bent forward and rushed out. Boom. The terrifying gust of wind and air waves caused some students who were not standing still to sit down staggeringly. In their sight, Anzhe stood on the starting line, and the ground was shaken out of collapse and cracks. What speed is this? A light and shadow that is faster than lightning, gallops out from the starting line. Like a cannonball exploding, the arrow leaves the string, and it is fleeting like lightning. No one could see his figure clearly, only felt the howling air in the blink of an eye. Even Aizawa Shota dilated his pupils, and all he could see was a blurry figure and the sound of a timer broadcasting in his ears. 1 second 28. Oh my god, are you kidding me? How could it be so fast? At this moment, all the students in Class A were shocked by Anzhe's 50-meter running speed. And you must know that Anzhe didn't start running immediately, otherwise the time for running 50 meters will only be faster, and even run within 1 second. It's incredible, isn't it? Is the speed of professional hero S so scary? Or it's just that Anzhe's speed is so terrifying, it's definitely a level that even most professional hero S can't reach. All the students quickly shook their heads frantically and stopped thinking about it. Otherwise, they will not have the courage to compete with Anzhe for the next few tests. Anzhe, who reached the finish line, ran forward for a certain distance before stopping. After running at such a fast speed, from acceleration to deceleration, the acceleration and consistency produced in this process are quite exaggerated. Immediately afterwards, Bakugo Katsuki ran 50 meters in 4.13 seconds. Damn it, the gap is so big. Bakugo Katsuki thumped his hands on the ground angrily. It's not that he didn't think he would lose to Anzhe, but the problem is that he lost with such a huge gap. However, he didn't have a trace of discouragement or frustration, he returned to calm after hitting the ground, and hid all the unwillingness and anger deep in his pupils. He has learned to endure, and Bakugo in this state will definitely be more terrifying. Anzhe is also looking forward more and more to the extent of Bakugo's efforts in the forbearance stage. Among the, he told Green Valley before, Bakugo Katsuki is one of them. Anzhe, you are exaggerating too much. Anzhe walked back to the pile of students, and was smacked by Jiro Kyoka. She remembered that at his house that day, Anzhe ran so fast that her skirt was blown when she was testing the boots. In short, this more intuitive picture and data made Jiro Kyoka, who didn't pay much attention to it because of shame and anger, feel the horror of Anzhe's speed for the first time. And Asui Tsuyu, Ashido Mina, and Yayorozu Momo also surrounded Anzhe and talked with him enthusiastically. This made Minoru Mineta, a small grape-headed man beside him, bit his clothes angrily, his eyes were bloodshot with jealousy, and he kept talking to himself. I'm so envious, why can he be surrounded by a bunch of beautiful girls? Is it because of good grades? After the first set, Aizawa Shota moved on to the next set. Second set, Ida and Asui Tsuyu. Immediately after the gunshot, Ida rushed out, and Asui Tsuyu jumped and ran on the ground like a frog. Ida's Quirks is an engine, with a car-like air pipe on his calf, capable of bursting out and having super fast movement power, so the 50-meter run is his strong point, like a fish in water. Ida, 3 seconds 04. Asui Tsuyu, 5 seconds 58. Aizawa Shota observed the use and characteristics of their quirks, nodded and continued. The next group, Uraraka Ochako and Ashido Mina. Uraraka Ochako uses quirks to remove gravity from his clothes and shoes, reducing the burden on his body. And Ashido Mina's quirks next to him didn't help this test, just plain runs. Uraraka Ochako, 15. Ashido Mina, 6 seconds 32. Although the gravity of the clothes was eliminated, it didn't help much, and Uraraka Ochako ran at the speed of ordinary people. And Ashido Mina ran slightly faster than ordinary people because of his activeness and better physical fitness. The same is true for Jiro Kyoka, who ran 7.52 seconds, a medium result. 0. By the way, some grape-headed little guy, using the purple ball on his quirk's head, bounced him. After coming directly to Anzhe, he won the second place in exactly 3 seconds. It's just that he didn't control the angle well, and his face hit the ground first. As a result, the appearance of being smashed into a pig's head made other students stay away from him as if in isolation. Minoru Mineta, who wants to cry but has no tears, is alone in the wind. In the end, only one group remained without a run, Midoriya Izuku and Aoyama Yuga. Because of the sequence, this group attracted the attention of the rest of the students a little. Green Valley Izuku stood on the runway, clenched his fists and swallowed nervously. After being awakened by Anzhe's guidance just now, Green Valley thought of a way. He hasn't been able to master OFA yet, and using quirks in the area will definitely hurt, but the response is huge power. 0. The power to beat even giant robots with a single punch. Then weakening this power should be enough to do a lot of things by yourself. On your marks. Get ready. Boom. The moment the countdown ended, Aoyama Yuga faced the runway directly in reverse. His quirks are Navel lasers, a laser that shoots from the navel with strong penetrating power. Take advantage of Quirk's trait, being able to push him backwards and forward yourself. And Green Valley Izuku stretched out one foot and stomped on the ground violently. One for all. The way Green Valley came up with was to weaken the injured area to the point where it can maintain mobility even after using OFA. So he uses quirks, concentrating on the toes. Boom. A big hole was stepped on the ground, and the next moment, Green Valley flew out like a cannon. After all, this is the power of All Might, even if it only covers a small area, it is extremely powerful. And Green Valley also expected to delay a few seconds in the air due to the unbalanced moment to adjust the center of gravity to ensure the direction. Boom, boom, boom. With the continuous dull sound of hitting the ground, Green Valley Izuku fell from the air, rolled a few times on the ground to remove all the impact force, and then stood up. Hiss, it hurts. Clenching his teeth, he felt a sharp pain in his toes, but Midoriya Izuku was pleasantly surprised to find that he could still maintain his mobility. Enduring the pain, he continued on to the not too distant destination, running until he arrived. Green Valley Izuku, second 12. Aoyama Yuga, 5 seconds 51. Aizawa Shota's eyes lit up, and he saw Izuku's method. This kid can do it. At the same time, I am also curious about what exactly Anzhe taught Green Valley to make him change so much. 087 End of test, Uraraka Ochako becomes class president. Fourth update, please subscribe. It looks a bit unsteady. It's really a strange Quirks, but it's much better than the actual entrance exam. Iida Ida, who was in the same exam room as Green Valley Izuku, and who was familiar with the two, sighed. Isn't this beautiful? Aoyama Yuga, who was the opponent in the same group, also lifted his hair and praised his opponent. Bakugo Katsuki. He opened his mouth wide, his eyes narrowed, more annoyed emotions hit his heart than losing to Anzhe. Deku, you kid, how dare you lie to me and kill you? Bakugo Katsuki, who was dazzled by anger, rushed towards Green Valley Izuku, who screamed in shock. Without exception, Quirk's discoveries were all before the age of 4, and they have been following behind him, like pebbles by the roadside, Quirkless's waist for a long time. Bakugo remembered that day, after being beaten up by Anzhe, he came to himself and said, LVGU Izuku is much better than you. I remembered what Anzhe said when he came to him after the actual combat exam. LVGU Izuku is much better than your 657. Just like a mockery, Midoriya Izuku's 50-meter run was just 0.01 seconds faster than him. Damn, hate. So it turns out that Chiju has been deceiving himself all along. Covering up his quirks, 10 years, cheating his feelings for more than 10 years. Goo, what is this cloth? It's really hard. But before Bakugo Katsuki rushed over, several light gray cloth bags flew over and wrapped around his right hand, body and head. These cloth bags are Aizawa Shota's weapons, capturing weapons, made of mesh wires with special alloys woven into the carbon dimension. Don't vent your personal emotions, it's a waste of time, and you have to continue with the remaining 7 tests. Aizawa Shota took back the bandages, took a deep look at the two, then continued to host the test. Bakugo Katsuki bowed his head silently. Although he is easily angry, it doesn't mean he has no brains. He is still just a student, and he can't bear the consequences of colliding with the teacher's dignity. He should be just a stone on the side of the road. Bakugo Katsuki clenched his fists tightly. Testing continues with 7 more. The second item is grip strength. Anzhe used the magic of the power of the steel wrist, and still won the first place in a crushing manner. Then there is Green Valley Izuku, who sacrificed his index finger and thumb and won the second place in grip strength. And the third place is a man named Shoji Mezzo. His quirks can copy the arm, so the grip strength data is also exaggerated, but it is still not as good as OFA's Green Valley and Anzhe of the professional hero S. Afterwards, stand-up long jump, repeated horizontal jump, endurance running, sitting forward bending, sit-ups. In these test items, Anzhe won the first place with undisputed results. Most of the items rely on physical fitness. Dragon Slayer magic has transformed Anzhe's physique into a dragon's physique, and he has been training according to the standard intensity of professional hero S. In comparison, the other students are far inferior, and only Shoto Todoroki, who is slightly better, can compete with it. But it's just a struggle, and the ending will not change. Until the softball throwing came again, Anzhe was the first to demonstrate the project. Because of Anzhe's lessons learned, all the students in Class A showed their magical powers like the 8 immortals crossing the sea. All of them did not follow the routine. For example, Jiro Kyoka used a coin, used lightning magic to use the principle of electromagnetic induction, serious nonsense, and sent a beam of super electromagnetic cannons to bombard the softball, making it fly a particularly long distance. Miss Cannon. And Yayorozu Momo, she also learned from Anzhe, using quirks to create cannons, and then hit the softball as a cannonball. However, to everyone's surprise, Anzhe is not the first place in softball throwing. Uraraka Ochako, the quirks is a weightless, petite girl with a round pie face. Hey, whoop, Uraraka Ochako picked up the softball, in a normal standard posture, and threw it lightly towards the sky. Its strength seemed to be insignificant, but the softball kept flying towards the sky, turning into the brightest star for a moment. Unlimited. In this regard, Aizawa Shota, who knows the student quirks, has long known the ending, and reported the data that Uraraka Ochako surpassed Anzhe. What? Infinite. No matter how powerful this power is, it's impossible. Newton's coffin is going to be overwhelmed. Except for Anzhe, the unknowing students were all so surprised that their eyes almost popped out. But then Uraraka Ochako was embarrassed and told everyone that her quirks had no gravity, so she understood what was going on. Fortunately, Newton died early, otherwise he would not be able to use science to explain this scene. So, the position of monitor of Class A is. Aizawa Shota looked at all the students with a dead fish in his eyes, and took out the scoring instrument to show the students. Then the results are announced now. The total score is very simple, it is the total score of all the scores. At this moment, some students with good grades are still a little nervous. They can't guarantee that the sum of their grades will be stable in the middle, and they are worried whether they will fall to the bottom 10. First place. Anzhe. Second place. Yayorozu Momo. Third place. Shoto Todoroki. Fourth place. Jiro Kyoka. Fifth place. Green Valley Izuku. Sixth place. Bakugo Katsuki. 20th place 1. Toru Hagakure. Then the last one is Toru Hagakure 0. Aizawa Shota glanced left and right before finding the target, the school uniform floating in the air. Toru Hagakure's quirks is invisible. In these tests of Quirk's hard power and physical fitness, there is absolutely no way. Because of Toru Hagakure's invisibility, everyone can't see her expression, but I think it can't be a happy smile. Then there was Bakugo Katsuki, whose face became even more gloomy, looking like he was about to turn black. It's fine if Anzhe doesn't win the competition, and now even Chojiu, whom he has always regarded as Lu Shaoshizi, ranks higher than him. Let's talk about the conditions to become the class leader first. Aizawa Shota deliberately whetted his appetite. Instead of mentioning the expulsion, he talked about the class leader. Uraraka Ochako surpassed Anzhe in softball throwing and became the first name. Then from now on you will be the monitor of Class A. Aizawa Shota pointed at Uraraka Ochako and said casually in a very careless tone. He'd known for a long time that Uraraka Ochako was almost unrivaled in the field of softball throwing. The purpose of his doing this is, on the one hand, to arouse the students' competitive spirit, and on the other hand, it is also to encourage the students to see practical examples. Anzhe of professional hero S an all-round invincible existence. Otherwise, if the students in Class A in the future all acquiesce that Anzhe number 1 is not competitive, it will only greatly restrict their growth. Because there will be a huge gap between those who have always aimed at the apex and those who do not. That me, Uraraka Ochako, who was named as the class monitor, was blushing and struggling coyly. Finally, she took a deep breath and said, I don't think I'm qualified to be the monitor, and I hope I can lose this job. 5.3 inches hey. The whole class exclaimed. Unexpectedly Uraraka Ochako would make such a decision. Okay. Aizawa Shota nodded, agreeing to Uraraka Ochako's request for resignation. In a normal class, the class leader generally does not have a strong sense of presence, and the competition is not very fierce, but this is the Hero S class. The squad leader means the soul and core of the class, which is of great significance. At the same time, this position is not something anyone can do if he wants to. If he is not the right person, he will brush himself off. For example, the current Uraraka Ochako, she knows very well that she does not have the talent to be a monitor. I have to say, Aizawa Shota is a planner. Immediately afterwards, Aizawa Shota showed a devilish smile again, which whetted the appetite of all the students. Whether Toru Hagakure will be fired or not. Next, Toru Hagakure, the last one, you. 088 the end of the first day of school, Afo and Tamura Shigaraki. The first update, please subscribe. When Aizawa Shota used a tantalizing tone again, he suddenly showed his teeth and smiled slyly. Student Toru Hagakure, you still need to exercise more on your physical fitness. By the way, the expulsion of the last place is just a lie. Maximize the reasonable hypocrisy of your quirks. All students, regardless of the student's emotions, whether they feel that they have been played by him. Aizawa Shota feels pretty good. He is quite satisfied with the level of Quirk's mastery of the students in this class, which has basically reached the standard. Even the obviously problematic Midoriya Izuku, under Anzhe's tutelage, proved his possibilities. After all, with all kinds of strict Quirks restriction laws, ordinary people basically don't use Quirks in their daily life. This kind of long-term suppression will limit a person's thinking. The development of Quirks for most occupational Hero S starts from the entrance of the Hero S department. As the class teacher, Aizawa Shota must first judge whether his students have the possibility of becoming Hero S. There is information about the lesson plan in the classroom, take a good look at it when you get back to the classroom. Aizawa Shota waved his hand, turned and left the playground. Starting tomorrow, there will be more cruel trials waiting for you, so be prepared. When the figure of Aizawa Shota left completely, Yaoyorozu Momo put his hand on his forehead and complained. Really, I was shocked at first. If students are expelled at the beginning of school, it is impossible in 2009. The others also nodded in agreement. At that time, they really believed it was true. Now that they think about it, is it obvious that they are lying? Not impossible. Anzhe, who spoke suddenly, attracted the attention of everyone in Class A. Anzhe continued. The Hero S class of the second year of high school, which is one class higher than ours, last year, when they entered the first year of high school, the entire class was expelled by Mr. Aizawa. What? Impossible. A class was expelled, which is too exaggerated. Compared with the reasonable hypocrisy of dismissing the last place today, the breaking news that Anzhe said surprised everyone. You can check it online and you will find out that Xiangying did not hide this news. Anzhe shrugged. Xiangying's degree of freedom, but let the head teacher really have the right to expel students, and Xiangying will bear all the consequences. Aizawa Shota is in the Hero S circle, but he is rated as a cruel man. Once it is judged as zero possibility, it will be discarded without hesitation. But I have to say that there are at least 20 people in a class, all of which are considered zero by Aizawa Shota. The students in the previous class were so good. In fact, this is also in line with the status quo of today's saturated Hero S society. Too many people become Hero S just for fame and fortune, and only a very small number of them really fit the word Hero S. This is also the consequence of the word profession. When Hero S becomes a profession, it will inevitably change in nature. It turned out to be true. Yaoyorozu Momo quickly took out his mobile phone and searched for news about Xiangying. One of them is, Aizawa Shota expelled all first-year students in the Hero S class. Thank you very much for telling us this news, Anzhe. Yaoyorozu Momo patted her chest with lingering fear, sweating coldly for her innocence. She really didn't expect Aizawa Shota, the head teacher, to be so strict. Don't worry about it, just have a good attitude. The road to becoming a Hero S and the road to being a Hero S are not that simple. The tone of Anzhe's words, and what he said in person as a professional Hero S made everyone in Class A feel that they had to reflect on themselves. Next, Anzhe greeted Jiro Kyoka to go back together, and all the lessons for today ended here. After all, there will be no classes arranged on the first day, and there are no admission visits, but the students in their hero's department are a little special. After Anzhe and Jiro Kyoka received the course materials, they went home from school together, and used OFA's injured Midoriya Izuku to go to Yingying's school doctor's recovery girl for treatment. In short, the first day of school is over, and everyone goes back to their respective homes. At the same time, in a closed and dark room, a man with sarcoma on his head and no eyes was lying on a hospital bed at a slanted angle. Next to him were many unknown instruments and tubes inserted into his body. It seems that it is used to treat, maintain, and regulate physical conditions. He is all for one. After being under the hallucination cast by Anzhe that day, he quickly broke free from it, but Anzhe had run away without a trace, and the sound of sirens approaching could be heard in his ears. So he abandoned the frozen office building and the headquarters of the League of Villains. By the way, his way to get rid of the hallucinations is to kill those who appear to affect his mood, all of them. Next to the AFO, there was a doctor-like person in a white coat. And in front of the hospital bed was an old TV. AFO has no eyes, but black metal branches like data cables are connected between the 5 fingers on his hand and the TV, and the pictures played on the TV can be directly transmitted to his brain to take shape. In the picture, there is a teenager with thick dark circles and messy silver hair. He exudes sickness and madness all over his body. Tamura Shigaraki, teacher, can you lend me Nomu? Tamura Shigaraki, who was in the background of a laboratory on the other end of the TV, asked. What's the matter? Do you have any new ideas? AFO's tone was very casual. It seemed that the teacher did not care and pay attention to the students. Rather, he treated Tamura Shigaraki as a hopeless student and let it go. I heard that All Might is going to become Yingying's teacher, and I want to give him a surprise. Tamura Shigaraki hesitated for a while, and felt that the teacher he usually respects, loves and attaches great importance to him has such a great attitude the transformation made him clenched his fists angrily. All of this is what happened after inviting Anzhe, it's all his fault. Tamura Shigaraki's eyes became a little menacing, and he continued, surprise through Kurogiri's quirks and see if you can kill All Might with Nomu. AFO thought for a moment and replied, the idea is good, but it's too reckless. Discuss the strategy with the evolutionary ape Yamamoto. You can really try the current depth of All Might. There have been rumors recently that All Might seems to have changed. AFO is the incurable wound left to each other when he and All Might were both wounded, but he can still transform into a symbol of peace and be active, but he can only lie in this dark place and receive treatment. However, recently, All Might has come forward to solve the incidents of villains criminals, and the incidents have indeed decreased a lot. Therefore, AFO has 310 guesses, whether All Might has found an heir and passed OFA to the next generation. I allow you to bring that Nomu, but the master planner of this operation is left to Kurogiri and Yamamoto Ape. Hearing AFO's words, Tamura Shigaraki gritted his teeth more and more unwillingly, but still agreed. He didn't dare to challenge the teacher's words, so he had to prove himself well in this action. Is it really okay to be like this? That child, Shigaraki, may feel resentful. The picture on the TV turned off and the doctor next to the AFO asked. Like the new and dislike the old, even if I have lived for hundreds of years, I am not surprised, don't you think so? Doctor. Similar to buying something. When a person buys a thing with 100 yuan in his hand, he finds that there is a better quality thing at the same price. But the money has been paid and the goods have been delivered, there is no refund, and there is no extra money. In this case, the subjective consciousness will affect the psychology. Why didn't you look at it more and buy something with better quality? The same reason. Tamura Shigaraki is what AFO bought for 100 yuan, and his performance is not bad. AFO has also taken pains to cultivate it all the way, but as his successor, Tamura Shigaraki still grows too slowly. In contrast, the appearance of Anzhe is something of better quality discovered by AFO. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't have any money at the moment, it meant that Anzhe couldn't be made his heir. And Tamura Shigaraki's life experience has some influence on All Might, otherwise he would have replaced Tamura Shigaraki. 089 Hero S Basics, everyone's battle uniform. Second update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 466. 117. 155. Please join the Kendo Club. The swimming club is recruiting newcomers. On the second day, Anzhe, who went to school with Jiro Kyoka, saw the main road at the entrance of Yingying School, and there were many clubs recruiting new students in 2 rows. This is like the school atmosphere that a high school should have. Japan's club culture is very famous, even Yingying is no exception. In fact, clubs can be joined based on interests, such as campus visits, or after school, with acquaintances or alone. After all, yesterday, it was only Aizawa Shota who made such a stern opening in order to correct everyone's attitude. Jingle jingle. As soon as the class bell rang, everyone in Class A sat back in their seats and stopped talking. This change of attitude is enough to explain the success of Aizawa Shota yesterday. The Hero S subject is a normal theoretical knowledge course in the morning, and the Hero S training course that becomes a Hero S in the afternoon. Above the classroom, Voice Hero S present Mike is holding a textbook and speaking English. The super noise of his quirks, like a construction site, ensures that all students can't do anything but listen. To be honest, in Anzhe's opinion, it is not very good to let professional Hero S teach theoretical courses. A strong career hero doesn't mean being a great teacher at teaching others. For example, All Might and Green Valley Izuku. Green Valley Izuku's growth, All Might is actually only competent to do spiritual inspiration. Even in the original plot, for the first workplace experience after the sports festival, Izuku Green Valley went to All Might's former class teacher Gran Torino to initially master the correct usage of OFA. Under the extension of this idea, Anzhe is already thinking about knowledge education, whether it is better to let professional teachers teach. A morning class ended in a blink of an eye. It was afternoon. Anzhe looked at the curriculum schedule, one of the most important subjects of Hero S Basics. Do you think All Might really came to be a teacher? The teacher column in the course schedule is also blank, which is really tantalizing. At noon, there was an enthusiastic discussion in the Hero cafeteria, so the students, when they were about to start class, were still discussing which professional Hero they expected to teach them. And Jiro Kyoka looked at Anzhe. As early as before going to his house, he revealed that All Might would come to teach. Not surprisingly, this news is true, because every day you can see media reporters squatting at the gate of UA High School, trying to catch All Might to interview him. It's a pity that no matter how hard they think, they won't know that an extremely skinny blonde man who walked by under their noses is the true self of All Might. Jingle jingle. As soon as the class bell rang, the door was gently opened, and everyone's expectant eyes were all in the past. Come in through the door very ordinary. All Might, dressed in the costumes of the Silver Age of Maiman, transformed into a powerful form with a blonde rabbit on his head, striding towards the podium. Suddenly, the students in the class were boiling, and all of them cheered loudly with excited expressions. It's All Might. It's amazing, they're working as teachers. The style of painting is so different that I have goosebumps. All Might didn't talk nonsense for a minute and a second, because his transformation time can't last too long. He said straight to the point. The subject I am in charge of is Hero Basics. This is a course for various training to build the foundation of Hero. Without further ado, that's it for today's lesson. All Might immediately took out a white card from behind, with battle written on it, which is the English word for battle. Combat training. This is the first lesson of All Might. And then there's this, look this way. All Might continued to point to the wall beside it, on which 4 cabinets protruded slowly, and continued. These are battle suits customized according to the Quirks report and needs you submitted before enrolling. Combat Uniform is a sponsoring company of the Hero industry that cooperates with Yingying, and it is made for free reports provided to students. Has a good auxiliary ability, which can make up for the shortcomings of some Hero and even help them use quirks better, which is of great help to combat effectiveness. Therefore, combat uniforms are similar to guns and belong to strictly controlled weapons. Normally, students in the Hero department are not allowed to wear combat uniforms. Only professional Hero like Anzhe and students who have passed the temporary license test can wear combat uniforms during Hero activities clothes. After changing clothes, we all gather at the playground. All Might passed in advance, or to save time, during the time when the students in Class A were changing their combat uniforms. The so-called playground is actually the venue for the entrance examination. Anzhe didn't have a better battle suit. It would be better to say that he didn't submit a report customized battle suit. Because he already has a battle suit, which is the Yandi armor. Not bad. Dressing up is also a very important part. Everyone is very handsome. After everyone changed into their combat uniforms, they came to the playground, and All Might also praised everyone's appearance in combat uniforms. Everyone in Class A was also looking at their battle uniforms around them while All Might was speaking. Bakugo Katsuki's battle suit, which features the wrists of both arms with grenade-shaped parts, and a headgear to match his exaggerated afro head. Shoto Todoroki's battle suit looks very ordinary without any special abilities. It is based on white. The only special thing is that half of the battle suit is designed with ice. Asui Suyu's combat uniform is designed in the image of a frog, and with her slightly bowed posture when she walks, she is completely like a frog. Jiro Kyoka's combat uniform is slightly boyish, with a camouflage uniform and 2 speakers tied to his legs, giving people a strong rock atmosphere. Ashido Mina's battle suit, a very sexy cyan tights, looks very oily and energetic. Unexpectedly, Uraraka Ochako's combat uniform is also tights like Ashido Mina's, and it is close to the skin to show off the body. And she also explained very shyly, because the requirements for filling out the report were not clearly written, and this turned out to be the case. By the way, the undulating battle suit is also a tights, which vividly shows her perfectly curvy figure. Awesome, deserved. Then there is Izuku's battle suit. The whole body is green, the green grassland on the head, and even a pair of green rabbit ears on the grassland. Looking at the unscientific golden rabbit ears erected on All Might's head, I can only sigh how terrible the extreme European chef is. Oh, it's too erotic. Suddenly, a lewd cry came, and it didn't even need to be Minoru Mineta, a small grape-headed man. His eyes were fixed on Yaoyorozu Wan's battle suit. Yaoyorozu Momo's battle suit is a very hot and bold design. There is a gap from the bottom of the neck to the top of the navel, which perfectly shows her proud bust figure. Even Anzhe was attracted, staring at the past firmly. Hey, Kyoka, don't pull my ear, it hurts. But soon, Jiro Kyoka, who was in pain, pulled Anze's ears and looked back. In short, the course of Hero Basics is about to start. 090 Anze's proposal, group situation. The third update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 534. 134. 178. After everyone in Class A came to the playground, they followed the lead of All Might and came to a 5-story building. Originally, the streets here should have been full of battle traces during the entrance examination, but now they have been restored to a spotless condition. Anzhe, why didn't you put on your combat uniform? The noise of Anzhe and Jiro Kyoka's fight made Kirishima Ejiro next to him look over, pointing to his school uniform and asking suspiciously. Others looked over after hearing the news, and were also curious about the question Kirishima asked. My battle uniform can be taken out anytime and anywhere, and I can wear it when I fight. Anzhe prevaricated without much explanation. Kirishima Ejiro also nodded, and didn't ask any more questions. He also saw that Anzhe didn't want to say more. It's just that for this question, it seems that we can't see it until the battle. Teacher, this is the examination room for the actual combat entrance exam. Are we going to have another actual combat training in the neighborhood? At this time, a person wearing a white armor and combat uniform asked. Recognized from the voice, it is Ida who wears glasses and looks like a disciplinary committee member. No, the course needs to go 2 steps further, to carry out actual combat training on people indoors. Hearing the word, actual combat, in All Might's mouth, all the students looked very excited. Fighting is like heroes, they have never used quirks to fight a few times, like newborns who are curious about the unknown, eager to try. All Might continued to explain. Although most people think that our professional hero catches villains outdoors, according to the big data investigation, the probability of cases happening indoors in this world is higher. Incarceration, house arrest, underground trading, in this hero's saturated society, the real dodgy villains will be lurking inside the house. You will now be divided into heroes groups and villains. Engage in 2-on-2 indoor battles. Quote. As soon as All Might finished speaking, the students in Class A who were led by Ida just now all asked their doubts. Asui Suyu. No need for basic training. Yaoyorozu Momo. How is the outcome determined? Bakugo Katsuki. Can you punch a trapeze? Toru Hagakuri. Wouldn't you be punished with expulsion like Mr. Aizawa? All Might twitched the corners of his mouth, feeling overwhelmed. He only wished he had 8 mouths so that he could answer the students' questions at the same time. Sure enough, All Might, as a teacher, is obviously not very adaptable. Anzhe looked at All Might's flustered look, and couldn't help thinking about the thoughts in the morning class. Combat training. The purpose is simple. Yesterday, Aizawa Shota tested all the students' knowledge of quirks and general physical fitness. And today's actual combat training course should be to test the combat potential of the students. It is true that the combat ability is closely related to the development of quirks, but it does not mean that the development of quirks is good, and the combat ability is strong. Similar to bodybuilders and professional fighters. The two may be similar in physical fitness, but if they are fighting, let alone one-on-one, 2 fitness people fighting a professional fighter are looking for abuse. Moreover, some people are born with poor mental quality. When it comes to real battles, they may have physical fear, trembling and shrinking. This actual combat training is to find out the various situations of all students in actual combat. Finally, the students stopped asking questions, and All Might wiped the sweat from his beard. It's really more tiring than fighting. Immediately afterwards, he took out a box and said, in terms of grouping, each of your teammates and opponents are in it, and the decision is made by lottery, except for Anzhe and you. Looking at Anzhe with an innocent face, All Might also felt embarrassed. He is already a professional hero, and he has been commissioned many times by large and small combat heroes, so this actual combat training is not necessary for him at all. Not to mention that after he participates, it will definitely be a crushing victory, making his opponents feel that there is no chance of winning, and may even crush their self-confidence. All Might doesn't want to see this happen. It's better to say that he, who is number 1, has a deep understanding of this. How about this? I have a proposal. Anzhe raised his hand and said. All Might nodded for him to continue. I will be a temporary teacher, a teacher for actual combat training. Hearing Anzhe's arrogant words, all the students were shocked, and All Might also raised their eyebrows. It's not that his dignity as a teacher is being challenged. Yingying's school spirit is freedom, so All Might is interested in Anzhe's proposal. Tell me, all the students exclaimed. They didn't expect that All Might would really agree to Anzhe's request to replace him temporarily. Anzhe raised the corners of his mouth, spread his hands wide, and scanned the students of Class A with his eyes. Any one of you AJDE who wants to challenge me can stand up. There is no limit to the number of people. Even if it's 20 square meters of you besides me. In actual combat, I will give you guidance and suggestions based on your performance in attacking me. Silence, silence. Everyone was shocked by the wild words in Anzhe's mouth, or their absolute confidence in him. Could it be that he is really so sure that when one person challenges multiple people, not only will he not lose, but he also has the spare time to give guidance and suggestions? This question arises in everyone's mind. If Anzhe knew, he would definitely answer, yes. In the original plot, when Undulating Spiral, Tianguiwan, Million, Yingying Big 3, and Yingying High School's third-year students appeared on the stage. Million defeated everyone in Class A with just one person. Now it's Anzhe, he can still do it easily. Because of the gap in strength between them, it can be described by the idiom, the difference between heaven and earth. The advantages of multiple numbers, under the gap of absolute strength, will not play a role at all. Before All Might could think about the feasibility of what Anzhe said, Shoto Todoroki, who was regarded as the most ruthless in the class, squeaked and stood up. I don't want to be half-baked, I want to be the best person, so I want to challenge you, Anzhe. Ida, who was wearing white armor, also came out after him. My cool speech, count me as a challenger. Tokiyami, who was wrapped in a black cloak and only showed a bird's head, said coolly. And me, how can you be surrounded by girls in the class? I'm so envious. There is also Minoru Mineta, a little grapehead, jumping around and talking jealously. Seeing this, All Might raised his hand helplessly and said, then follow what Anzhe said, who else wants to challenge him? Except for the 4 who stood up and Anzhe, the other 16 students looked at each other in blank dismay, and no one stood up again. This surprised Anzhe, he thought that Bakugo Katsuki would also come to challenge himself. But seeing Bakugo staring at the Green Valley Izuku next to him, Anzhe seemed to understand something in his heart. That's just right, let's draw the lottery for the remaining 16 people. All Might greeted and began to explain the rules. The background setting is that the villain hides nuclear weapons somewhere in the building in front of him, and the hero needs to find a way to dispose of the nuclear weapons. And Yaoyorozu Momo asked about the outcome customization before. Villains group. Keep the nuclear weapons within a certain period of time, or capture the hero S. Hero S group. Capture villains in a certain room, or recover nuclear weapons. After explaining the rules, the remaining 16 students stepped forward to draw their teammates. Group A. Midoriya Izuku, Uraraka Ochako. Group B. Jiro Kyoka, Toru Hagakuri. Group C. Yaoyorozu Momo, Asu Isuyu. Group D. Bakugo Katsuki, Shoji Mezo. Group E. Ashido Mina, Aoyama Yuga. Group F. Kota Koji, Sato Rikido. Group G. Ojiro Mashirao, Kaminari Denki. Group H. Hiroshima Eijiro, Siro Hanta. Quote. Then the first 2 sides to fight are. All Might rummaged through the box and took out 2 balls, these 2 groups. In the hands of All Might, one is the ball of Group A and the other is the ball of Group D. In the first game, Group A Hero S vs Group D Villains. 091 Green Valley Izuku vs Bakugo Katsuki. 4th update, please subscribe. Bakugo Katsuki, character can be summed up in one word, explosive. He is a person with outstanding talents. He has learned everything quickly since he was a child. Although he looks like a delinquent boy, he is a real academic master. He has grown up under the praise of everyone since he was a child, his self-esteem is so strong, and he has developed the habit of being competitive and winning the first place in everything. But in the past year, he began to taste the taste of failure. Even if he thinks it is a failure, in the eyes of ordinary people it is already a very good result. Bakugo Katsuki wasn't disaffected, much less envious. That Anzhe who beat himself up, his self-esteem has to admit that he is very strong. But Bakugo still feels that as long as he keeps working hard, he will catch up with him and surpass him one day. So let go of Anzhe, now, the most important thing for him is Green Valley Izuku, Deku, Bookworm. Quirks are generally awakened before the age of 4, otherwise they will be judged as quirkless. Obviously, he has always been the guy who followed behind him, a follower, but suddenly he stood on the stage equal to him. Did you lie to me? Even though he owns Quirks, he pretends not to have it in front of me. Are you playing me for a fool? Seeing that I was deceived by you, with that ignorant and innocent expression, you are actually mocking me wildly in your heart, right? Bakugo Katsuki, who is full of self-esteem, and the shame of being cheated and played by someone he has always looked down upon, has filled every corner of his unbalanced heart. When the teams for the first match came out, Bakugo Katsuki and Shoji Mezo of the villains team, and Midoriya Izuku and Uraraka Ochako of the hero S team entered the building. The villains group entered the building 5 minutes in advance and chose where to place the nuclear bomb. Then the hero S group re-enters and asks to recover the nuclear weapon or defeat the villains within 15 minutes, and vice versa. All Might brought the rest of the students to the monitoring room to watch the confrontation between Group A and Group D. Different from the entrance exam that must be kept secret, actual combat training allows students to observe the whole process of other people's battles. This is a very valuable experience. At this time, in the building, the villains group. That guy from Green Valley owns Quirks, right? Bakugo Katsuki spoke to his teammate, Shoji Mezo with several arms, in a more question and answer tone. There must be that extraordinary power, although the price seems to be very high, but it is really a powerful Quirks. Shoji Mezo said with emotion that in the previous Quirks mastery test, his most confident grip was defeated by 2 people. One is Anzhe, who is undoubtedly the number 1. The other is the little-known Green Valley Izuku. But Shoji Mezo didn't notice that when he said this, Bakugo Katsuki's face was gloomy and terrible. Bakugo, let's discuss countermeasures. No, you take this nuclear bomb and release it at will, I alone is enough. Bakugo Katsuki waved his hand and left angrily, not intending to guard the nuclear bomb. He's losing his sanity now, all he can think about is Midoriya Izuku's face. Shoji Mezo waved his hands helplessly, and didn't say anything or stop Bakugo, so as not to get angry. Originally, he was the kind of person who didn't talk much, dull, and did things. After moving the nuclear bomb to a room, he was the guard alone. Suddenly, the voice of All Might sounded from the radio installed in the building. Group A vs. Group D, indoor combat training, start. At the same time, Hearing this figure, Midoriya Izuku's body tensed up suddenly. He could feel the constant acceleration of his heart, his body was hot and sweaty, and his body trembled slightly. He is nervous. Because the opponent is his young tamed eye, the Bakugo Katsuki who is the first in everything and has been bullying him since he was a child. Today, I'm going to compete with Ka Zhang on the same stage. Green Valley Izuku took a deep breath, mixed emotions of excitement and fear, and Uraraka Ochako who was cheering for himself next to him. Don't be timid. According to his plan, he is very confident to win this actual combat training, even if the opponent is Ka Zhang. Successful infiltration. Midoriya Izuku and Uraraka Ochako did not enter through the main entrance, but chose to turn in through the window. The two were extremely cautious, trying not to make any noise, and moved forward slowly and timidly. Boom. Suddenly, a violent explosion resounded through the entire corridor. Green Valley Izuku quickly pushed Uraraka Ochako away, planning to proceed, let her leave first, and then looked at the source of the explosion. Deku. The familiar voice yelled out his contempt for Green Valley, and the anger could be seen from the face, which was infinitely high. Ka sauce. Green Valley Izuku has long guessed that with Bakugo's character, he will act on his own initiative. 0. What are you hiding, peddler? Bakugo Katsuki rushed directly to Green Valley Izuku without too much nonsense. He flicks forward with his right hand, uses quirks, and intends to attack Green Valley with a big explosion. However, at this moment, Green Valley Izuku, all distracting thoughts and emotions disappeared, only the calmness focused on fighting. Green Valley stepped forward, predicting Bakugo's actions long ago, and grabbed his attacking right arm with both hands. Then, the diary fell beautifully over the shoulder. The heavy impact made Bakugo's eyes slightly startled, and he lost his mind and couldn't believe it. And Anzhe's sentence. Green Valley Izuku is much better than you. Like the reverberation when the clock strikes, it lingers in the brain and ears for a long time. Ka Zhang. Basically, you will subconsciously start a big attack from the right side. It's in the notebook that you blasted and then threw away. I will deeply record all these analyses in my mind. Kajiang. I'm no longer the old Chiju who has achieved nothing, but the inspiring Deku. Monitoring room. The students in Class A felt incredible when they saw the picture on the monitor. It's a lie. Is Green Valley so powerful? Although everyone knows that Green Valley's quirks are very powerful, the cost of injuries after using them is also very miserable. But now Green Valley has escaped Bakugo's attacks using quirks several times only by relying on his physical fitness, and even Gradual took the initiative to beat Bakugo so hard that he couldn't fight back. All actions of Bakugo are predicted by Green Valley. In the past 10 years of his life, Izuku of Green Valley has always been like a follower, staying behind Bakugo. Bakugo has never looked squarely at Green Valley, this arrogance has paid the price at this moment. Unlike others who were surprised, Anzhe frowned slightly. For more than 10 months, when he went to Duoguchang Seaside Park to exercise, he could also meet All Might and Green Valley Izuku. He also rose up a few times, and gave him a little guidance on Green Valley, teaching him some precautions in actual combat. Therefore, when Bakugo was stunned by Green Valley's over-the-shoulder fall, he could take advantage of the victory and wrap the tape around Bakugo's body. The battle is over. The current Green Valley still has many problems in actual combat. By the way, the live capture tape is the proof of capture. If the tape is wrapped around the opponent is considered to be captured and out of the game. 092 NGVs 4. The first update, please subscribe. Next, the battle between Bakugo Katsuki and Midoriya Izuku ends the same way as the original plot. Slightly different is the process of making the way the end is made. Uraraka Ochako went to find the location where the nuclear bomb was hidden, and then contacted Green Valley through radio equipment, and then Green Valley blasted the OFA to the ceiling. The powerful force and punching wind shattered an unknown number of layers in one breath, breaking through huge holes and countless rubble. And Uraraka Ochako used gravity-free quirks, picked up a pillar of the building, and swung the rubble like a baseball. Comet home run. Even though Shoji Mezo's quirks copied a lot of arms, it was still hard to beat with 2 fists and 4 hands. Uraraka Ochako took the opportunity to touch the nuclear bomb, and the first actual combat training ended. Midoriya Izuku and Uraraka Ochako in Group A, Hero S Group, win. It's really messy. 710. All Might looked at the traces of Green Valley's injuries and the ruined mess of the building, and he wanted to end the battle several times. In short, actual combat training continued, but in a different building. Anyway, here are all buildings and block scenes, and there are buildings everywhere. The following actual combat training was very normal, without the exaggerated destruction like Group A and Group D. And Jiro Kyoka's B Group, Villains Group. It was against Ojiro Mashirao and Kaminari Denki in Group G. This practice session was a bit more notable because at the beginning of All Might's talk, Kyoka's teammate Toru Hagakuri. This invisible girl began to take off. Her quirks are transparent, which is very magical, and there is only one example of quirks in the world. No one knows what she looks like with the ability to be transparent all over the body. But it can't make the attachments on the body transparent together, so the school uniforms and skirts floating in the air are in the eyes of others, which is a bit scary. Therefore, Toru Hagakuri will take off all his clothes in actual combat, that is, he will be completely naked. Otherwise, the clothes are still floating in the air, which is more likely to attract people's attention. In the monitoring room, a small grape-headed Minoru Mineta pressed his face to the screen excitedly. It's just that even if he wants to see through his eyes, he can't see any pictures that are not suitable for children. After the battle started, Jiro Kyoka and Toru Hagakure discussed the tactics, not to stick to the nuclear bombs but to take the initiative to attack. It was up to Jiro Kyoka alone to face the duo of Ojiro Mashirao and Kaminari Denki. The result is naturally complete abuse. Kaminari Denki's quirks are discharge, the current is released, and to a certain extent, it is only suitable for single combat. Because he can't control the degree of discharge, he will accidentally injure friendly troops, and if he discharges too much at one time, his brain will short-circuit and become an idiot for a short time. And Ojiro Mashirao's quirks are tails, with a strong tail that can move freely like a third hand. He is a fighter type, good at melee combat, but he is actually a bit ordinary. When the two of them found the nuke, it was Kaminari Denki who led the charge, with Ojiro Mashirao watching from behind. Kaminari Denki mass discharges in an attempt to take down Jiro Kyoka and Toru Hagakure, who is invisible somewhere, in one fell swoop. But Jiro Kyoka, who masters the lightning magic, not only can resist the discharge current, but she also plugs the Quirk's headphone cable into the ground. The earth conducts electricity. Kaminari Denki instead discharged too much himself, turned into an idiot and was easily caught with live capture tape. And when the lightning flashed, Toru Hagakure also quietly approached Ojiro Mashirao, and quietly wrapped the raw glass tape around his body. The two Hero-S groups were captured by the villains group, and the actual combat training was over. Jiro Kyoka and Toru Hagakure of Group B, villains group, win. When all the teams were over, Anzhe was left alone, facing off against Shoto Todoroki, Iida Ida, Tokiyami Yinta, and Minoru Mineta. The last match was so special, the rest of the students were also very concerned about the whole process and result of the battle. In the monitoring room, they saw Anzhe holding the nuclear bomb alone through the display screen. In the open center of the first floor of the building, just put the nuclear bomb there and not move. Isn't that too confident? I was alone, but I still put the nuclear bomb in such an obvious place. The students in Class A were also talking about it, but they didn't expect Anbong to choose to put the nuclear bomb in this position. By the way, the background of the battle is the nuclear bomb, the Hero-S group and the villains group. Because Anzhe is only one person, he can choose villains group or Hero-S. He thought about it and decided to be the villains group. After all, rather than looking for prey by himself, he prefers to sit on the sidelines and let the prey come to his door on his own initiative. 5 minutes of prep time. How boring. While waiting for the start of All Might to be announced, Anzhe got a little more serious and analyzed his opponent. Shoto Todoroki, number 2 occupation Hero-S Endeavor's son, Quirks is half burning, half cold, a song of ice and fire. On the bright side, this release type Quirks has no weaknesses. Because most of the Quirks released are generally difficult to use all the time, and the body will suffer backlash. For example, Shoto Todoroki has been using semi-cold Quirks where the body freezes. Use half-burned Quirks all the time and you will burn your body. But this combination of ice, fire, and fire perfectly offset their respective backlashes. Therefore, Joe's weaknesses all come from himself, inexperienced, and stubborn, only use half-cold Quirks. See if you can force his half-burned Quirks out. Anzhe rubbed his chin and thought, maybe Shoto Todoroki's Quirks is troublesome to others, but in front of his Natsu's Fire Dragon Slayer magic, and Gray's ice-shape magic. Not enough to see at all. Would you like some water? Then, slightly more noteworthy are Tokiyami Ginta and Iida Ida. The Quirks of the former are black shadows, with shadow-like monsters living in their bodies that can be stretched and materialized freely, and their combat strength is super high. His dark shadow is especially destructive in a dark environment, but it can also become difficult to control. In the sunny environment, it becomes easy to control, but it will be in a state of weak attack power. Now that I think about it, his Quirks seem to be restrained by me. Anzhe thought about Tokiyami's weakness in Quirks. Simply put, he is afraid of light, but he can easily cast lightning magic. 5.7 inches Ida's is the same, compare the speed with me. Anzhe shook his head helplessly, and suddenly found that his opponent seemed to have difficulty causing him any trouble. Ida's Quirks are engines, with car-like gas pipes on their lower legs and super fast action. He has a nirvana that can forcibly generate an explosive momentum, instantly possessing a speed invisible to the naked eye, at the cost of temporarily extinguishing the engine. But Anzhe didn't think that Ida's speed could match half of his speed. Start. Finally, after 5 minutes of long waiting time, All Might announced the start of the battle. Correct. There is also Minoru Mineta, but there is no need to analyze him, because he is not even considered as the fifth scum in the eyes of Anbi. 2. 093 Yandy Scarlet Sword, the tactics of the Hero-S Group 4. Second update, please subscribe. Let's discuss countermeasures. After all, the opponent is that Anzhe. Ida, who was waiting to enter the building, proposed to Shoto Todoroki, Tokiyami Ginta, and Minoru Mineta, who were also members of the Hero-S team. He is eager to win, and he also understands that Anzhe, a professional Hero-S, is definitely not something that an individual can compete with. I will confront him from the front, you just need to find a way to touch the nuclear bomb. Shoto Todoroki responded coldly. Unlike Bakugo Katsuki, he could hear the words of his teammates and was willing to cooperate with them. Cold outside and hot inside. They also briefly exchanged about their respective quirks. On the surface, he is indeed the only one who has the strength to confront Anzhe. And when he thought of the live broadcast of the license exam in September, the first round of assessment that he watched in the third year of junior high school, Anzhe's flames spewed out of his mouth, and he wanted to compete with them with his semi-cold quirks. Well, Let's search for the nuclear bomb in 4 ways, and use a small radio communicator to report after we find the location, and then the 3 of us will wait for the opportunity to recover the nuclear bomb. Immediately, Ida, Tokiyami Yinta, and Minoru Mineta also agreed to this strategy, and it happened that all might sounded through the radio. The 4 members of the Hero S group stepped into the building. Their backs are like brave men who challenge the devil. 09 regards death as home. Then, as soon as they entered the door, Anzhe was in sight, and there was no hidden nuclear bomb behind him. Yo, you guys are finally here. I was so bored that I fell asleep waiting. Anzhe yawned and twisted his body, as if waking up from a nap. Hero S Quartet. Everyone watching in the monitoring room. Normally speaking, shouldn't you fight a bunch of monsters and mobs to break through the level before you can meet the final big boss? Anzhe, the Demon King, doesn't play his cards according to routine. Suddenly, they came together. Frost continued to spread through the building, and Shoto Todoroki drove his semi-cold quirks, covering the entire first floor in front of him in the blink of an eye. He didn't care that Anzhe appeared here so unexpectedly. He didn't get distracted. Since he appeared here, let's defeat him here. This is my first fight with you, right? Anzhe jumped lightly to avoid freezing his feet from the spreading frost, and then touched the ground with his toes and landed smoothly. This may be a very unfavorable environment for other people, but for Anzhe it is like going home, and even has the urge to take off his shirt. Shoto Todoroki, who owns half-cold, half-burning quirks, is undoubtedly the most interested and strongest person among the 4 in front of him. Too bad he's still running away now, unwilling to use the half-burned quirks on the other side. I'll give you a piece of advice: if you don't go all out, you will lose without any resistance. The corners of Anzhe's mouth curled up, the magic power in his body was running, and he changed his clothes, the Yandi armor. As soon as the words fell, a scorching wave of flames radiated from Anzhe's body overwhelmingly. Melting ice and snow, Shoto Todoroki just let the building's frosty environment melt into countless water droplets in an instant. The 4 members of the Hero S group, as well as everyone in the monitoring room, were surprised to see this. The raging flames, the crimson, orange and black armor that brings infinite pressure, and the flaming sword in his hand are exactly the armor that Anzhe wore when he defeated the Iron Shark. Shoto Todoroki's pupils dilated, subconsciously driving quirks, creating an ice wall in front of them instantly to surround them. It was an instinctive sense of fear, and his own ice couldn't compete with it, and the last person who brought this feeling was his father. Flame Hero S Quirks named Hell Flame, known as the strongest fire quirks by the outside world. Just an ice wall, but it's not enough to see at all. While the few people were stunned, Anzhe had already rushed over, cutting the air with a blade of flame and making a distorted burning sound. Shua, 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 the flame sword waved lightly, and the ice wall was instantly melted and dissipated. At the same time, the air that has been severely frozen is heated again, which will cause an explosion and generate an air wave. Follow our initial countermeasures. Amidst the smog, Shoto Todoroki hastily created another ice wall, at least able to drag Anzhe head on for a while. After hearing his words, Ida, Tokiyami Yinta, and Minoru Mineta each circled an arc and ran to the left and right. Anzhe placed the nuclear bomb in the center, with ventilation on all sides. It happened that there were 4 people in the Hero S group, one of them held the front, and as long as one of the remaining 3 could touch the nuclear bomb, they could win this actual combat training. This is the tactics they discussed in 5 minutes as a group of 4 Hero S. It's a good idea. Looking at the smoky figures of the 3 of them, Anzhe praised, and the flaming sword in his hand suddenly ignited a bloody red flame, but the difference in strength is too big, and tricks are useless. Quote. Emperor Yan Sword of Scarlet Pattern. Anzhe put the sword horizontally, and swiped forward violently, and the terrifying stream of flames formed a circle around the position where Shoto Todoroki was, just like their arc trajectory. Flame Prison. Shoto Todoroki kept creating cold ice to resist, although he was melted into water in a short time, soaking his whole body, but at least he was able to maintain his original shape without being hurt. In short, Shoto Todoroki was stuck here for a while. Anzhe didn't care about Shoto Todoroki, because he had to deal with the other 3, otherwise he would lose if they touched the nuclear bomb. This actual combat training, as long as we encounter a nuclear bomb, we will win. Ida, who had come to the left side of the nuke, said loudly to Tokiyami, who was on the right side of the nuke, and Minoru Mineta, who was behind the nuke. Immediately afterwards, the 3 also relied on their own abilities. The engine on Ida Tenzai's calf made a roaring sound. Tokiyami jumped up, and a dark figure appeared on the chest, stretching as far as possible to touch the nuclear bomb. Minoru Mineta also frantically took off the grape-shaped ball on his head, intending to bounce him over like he did during the Quirks mastery test. Extreme horsepower. Ida's face was dignified, full of determination, and he used a nirvana he created, piston engine burst sprint. Immediately, the engine on Ida's calf shot out an explosion like flame. The impact he obtained at the cost of sacrificing the engine made his whole body explode at a speed that the naked eye could not capture, leaving an afterimage on the spot and rushing towards the nuclear bomb. I saw the flaming sword in Anzhe's hand, gently picked it into the ground below the nuclear bomb, and then dragged it firmly onto the sword body and picked it up. Ida, who looked astonished, just jumped into the air, and the key point was that his forward body was stopped by Anzhe. Anzhe stretched out his hand leisurely, with sharp eyes and quick hands, he grabbed Ida's arm. The huge power in his hands instantly stopped Ida's figure, like a sudden break. Then it's time to act as a teacher and teach you about your problems, Iida-san. 094 The Defeated 3, Tokiyami's Change. The third update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 806. 202. 269. Ida was horrified to find that no matter how hard he tried to break free, the arm held by Anzhe remained motionless, as if the arm was not his. Then, Anzhe's words came to his ears. You should be the kind of person who is serious, right? This kind of attitude is really good, but... Anzhe shook his head funny, took out the capture tape, and captured Ida neatly. The person with the most cards in the battle is often the one who has the last laugh. Don't be so obvious that you want to play and kill. Ah, hearing this, Ida froze in bewilderment. It means that you are too obvious, and anyone with a discerning eye will know that you want to make a big move. Anzhe had trapped Shoto Todoroki just now, and when he was going to deal with the other 3 first, he glanced at their positions. Among them, although Ida is wearing a combat uniform and cannot see his facial expression clearly, his whole body exudes a sense of dignity. Similar to after this battle, I will go back to my hometown to get married. This kind of momentum that I'm going to fight to the death and use the last whole card can be seen at a glance. Originally Ida's move is sure to kill, piston engine burst sprint. The speed is still very good, and it should be able to bring her no small threat. But Anzhe could see that he was going to use his nirvana. Under this precondition, he also knew quirks of Ida, so he could easily deal with him without any pressure. In addition, it's better to use less of the nirvana of Yaoyorozu's nirvana that kills 1000 enemies and self-damages Yaoyorozu. Even if there is less mobility, the key is to ensure mobility. After Anzhe gave the last sentence of guidance, he didn't bother Ida anymore. Those captured by the live capture tape are considered out of the game and must no longer interfere with actual combat. Hoo. And above Anzhe's head, there was a piercing sound of piercing the air, and when he raised his head, it was Tokiyami Yinta who jumped into the air and the black shadow that came out of his body. Trying to use the length advantage of the black shadow to touch the nuclear bomb on the sword. Wing. Anzhe handled the nuclear bomb gently, opened his mouth slightly, and a magic circle appeared behind him. A pair of dragon wings appeared, flew into the sky suddenly, and attacked Tokiyami Yinta. Shadow. Tokiyami anxiously called out to his quirks. He didn't expect Ida to be dealt with so quickly. Even if it was delayed for a second, his black shadow would touch the nuclear bomb. However, his black shadow didn't listen to his order, instead it kept trembling with a cowering face. Tokiyami Yinta also immediately felt the feedback from the black shadow, the emotions of fear, which originated from the flame sword in Anzhe's hand. Animals are instinctively afraid of fire, which stems from the memory handed down in the genetic material due to being injured by extinction during the evolution process. Of course, many cold-blooded animals and insects are very fond of fire. But at least the existence of the unknown creature, the black shadow, is very afraid of fire, or the light of fire. So Anzhe didn't do anything. Holding the flaming sword in his hand, he turned the black shadow into such a cowardly look. Not to mention, he also has a grenade magic hand, which can counter Tokiyami's shady quirks. You should know your quirk's weakness, right? So what should you do in this situation? Anzhe grabbed Tokiyami Yinta by the collar, lifted him up and suspended in midair, and his quirk's black shadow dared not speak out, unable to resist at all. Tokiyami Yinta did not resist fiercely, knowing that it was useless, but was thinking along Anzhe's question. Although Sombra is your quirks, it is also your partner, right? But have you always asked your partner to pay, but never thought of taking the initiative to help it bear the pressure? In fact, in Anzhe's opinion, Tokiyami's quirks and combat talents are very good, although the shortcomings are also obvious. Of course, the main problem is that Tokiyami Yinta is too dependent on Sombra, too dependent. Almost all rely on the Black Shadow to fight. Once the Black Shadow is restrained, he will definitely lose. This problem is behind the original plot. After Tokiyami joined the firm of Wing Hero S. Hawks as an intern, he solved the problem of dependence by teaching him. And what Anzhe is doing now is to help Tokiyami Yinta realize this problem in advance and correct it. That is, capture completed. Anzhe took out another capture tape and wrapped it around Tokiyami Yinta's arm as proof of capture. At this time, there was another whistling wind sound from behind. Look at me retracting the nuclear bomb and making all the girls focus on me. Minoru Mineta, who ran behind the nuclear bomb, bounced himself out again through Quirk's ball elasticity. Although the angle is still that the face hits the ground first, even if the face touches the surface of the nuclear bomb, it can still be regarded as a success. Seeing that Anzhe is still facing away from the nuclear bomb, it will be difficult to rush over, unless he has some means of long-range attack. Therefore, a silly smile appeared on his face, as if he saw countless girls surrounding him, praising him for winning Anzhe. It's really hopeless. Anzhe turned his head and took a look. Minoru Mineta's delusional look made him a little speechless. In fact, he does have a lot of ranged means, but instead of casting Minoru Mineta to deal with raids, he takes a much simpler approach. There's a big naked beauty in the back. Where? Hearing Anzhe's words, Minoru Mineta didn't think about it at all, subconsciously turned her head back, and looked around. With this turn of the head, the tendency to rush forward is reduced. So Minoru Mineta in Anzhe's eyes, even Zon 5 scum is not considered the reason. Boom. Anzhe turned around leisurely, slowly flew behind the nuclear bomb, and kicked it out. It was the face of Minoru Mineta who turned her head when she didn't notice the naked big beauty. Then, accompanied by a scream of pain, Minoru Mineta was kicked out like a ball, fell to the ground and fainted. Everyone in the surveillance room. Although they couldn't hear the voice on the screen, Minoru Maneda's movement of turning his head could almost guess the general situation. This made the girls in Class A look at the fainted Minoru Maneda with even more disgust. It's too embarrassing, get out of the group now. And everyone in Class A didn't care about Minoru Maneda after that, their eyes were immediately attracted by the next scene. Anzhe, who grabbed Tokiyami's collar, just let go, and Tokiyami fell from midair. Even though the height is not high, if you fall down like this straight, you will not break your bones. Mr. All Might, stop the actual combat training quickly and let Anzhe save Tokiyami Yinta. Yaoyorozu Momo said anxiously to All Might that she has never acted like a young lady, and she will take the initiative to help her classmates when they are in trouble. Her personality is quite good. But All Might just frowned slightly and didn't pay attention to it. Anzhe should have his intentions in doing this. Different from the first battle between Izuku and Bakugo Katsuki, he wanted to stop several times, because the two were obviously emotional and completely ignored the surrounding situation. But Anzhe is a professional hero who has been working for a year, and has also got rid of the title of rookie who just debuted. Nuo Dahao, logically speaking, he would never take the initiative to let go, deliberately let Tokiyami fall down and hurt himself. Wait, maybe it was intentional, but it doesn't mean that Tokiyami got injured on purpose. Sure enough, the next moment, Tokiyami's shadow stepped on Quirk's black shadow and let him hug him. The black shadow stretches freely and performs a series of commands, but it can be in a suspended state. And Tokiyami, who was held by the black shadow, stopped from the falling state and floated in midair. Flight. This method is exactly the Nirvana, Black Shadow Fallen Angel of Black, that Tokiyami Yinta practiced. In addition, there is also the Nirvana, Abyss Darkness, that wraps the black shadow around itself like an armor. The change he made was to turn Sombra into his assistant, and the main force into himself. Interesting. The corner of Anzhe's mouth was raised, and he did it deliberately, and at the critical moment, it inspired Tokiyami's potential to step down. This made him very much looking forward to what kind of performance Tokiyami, who is stronger than the original plot, will bring at the sports festival in the near future. 095 The duel between the two ices, the hero's basics are over. The first update, please subscribe. You are the only one left now, Shoto Todoroki. The three members of the hero's group who threatened the nuclear bomb were all eliminated. Anzhe flapped his wings and landed slowly on the ground, looking forward to Shoto Todoroki who had broken free from the flame prison. After all, Anzhe didn't continue to supply magic power, and Shoto Todoroki has been using half-cold quirks all the time, one ebb and flow, of course this is the result. However, Shoto Todoroki's body was soaked and his chest heaved violently, it seemed that he was in a bad state. The only good news is that he won't get the backlash from using quirks too much. Because the frost condensed on the body will be melted by the surrounding high-temperature environment in an instant. Anzhe said firmly. I said it before. If you don't use your half-burning quirks, you will lose without any resistance. Hearing this, Shoto Todoroki was slightly surprised, wondering how Anzhe knew about the half-burned quirks on his other side, but he still insisted. I don't know how to use them, I want to use only these half-cold quirks and become the number one. Quote. Don't be a fool, Anzhe snorted disdainfully, and a burst of golden light burst out from his body again, which indeed lifted the Yan Emperor's armor on his body. To be the first to say something is extremely arrogant. Corresponding to this arrogance and becoming the number one strength, that is called self-confidence. But if you don't have the strength to become the number one, but say such arrogant words, then you are extremely stupid. Let you feel the despair of being defeated by the most confident thing. Anzhe let out a breath, his eyes were like a bright moon and frost, exuding a blue and icy coldness. He didn't want to imagine that in the original plot, Green Valley would come out for 580 years, explain a lot of truths to Shoto Todoroki in the ring, and give up his chance in vain. Redemption Shoto Todoroki. Anzhe doesn't hate this kind of approach, but what he hates is the way of sacrificing his own victory and going to redeem his opponent. So to be blunt, the way to force Shoto Todoroki to use half-burned quirks is to make him feel the gap that is absolutely insurmountable. He wants to be the number one force with half-cold quirks. Style of ice. Floor. Anzhe stepped forward and stomped heavily on the ground, and the magic power of the ice poured in, creating a smooth ice surface in an instant and attacking all around. How can it be? Seeing this, Shoto Todoroki's pupils widened, he never expected that Anzhe also had methods like ice. He also stepped on the ground with his right foot, driving his semi-cold quirks with all his strength, and the ground under his feet quickly spread and condensed into ice. Confrontation. Suddenly, two icy forces resisted and turned the whole building into two spikers. In the monitoring room, everyone exclaimed in shock. It's a lie. What kind of power is this? Surveillance is completely broken. Because of the freezing that destroyed the cameras in the building, everyone in Class A and All Might could only see the situation of the building not far away from the window of the monitoring room. I saw that the entire surface of the building was completely covered by frost, and the chill continued to spread, gradually frosting the ground of the street outside. It is enough to see how fierce the confrontation between Shoto Todoroki and Anzhe is inside the building. Bakugo Katsuki looked at this scene, fisted, and he remembered the fear of facing Anzhe's extreme cold under the ice that day. He originally thought that as long as he worked hard, he would be able to quickly catch up with the gap between them. The cruelty of reality gave him another slap in the face. Feeling this cold ice again, Bakugo Katsuki still has a fear in his heart that he dare not face. No, I'm just starting, I will definitely. Bakugo Katsuki murmured like crazy. A building for combat training. You are not the only one who can use the power of ice. Anzhe looked down at the angle, condescending, because Shoto Todoroki staggered back with unsteady steps. Two worlds, but not two halves. The same ice spread, but Shoto Todoroki's ice was suppressed, and his domain was defeated and invaded by Anzhe's ice. In the first ice confrontation, Anzhe won. Hateful. Shoto Todoroki gritted his teeth, his eyes blazed with arrogance. How could he agree that his semi-cold quirks were inferior to Anzhe? The next moment, he swung his right hand to create a huge ice spike, and stabbed towards Anzhe. At the same time, he stepped on his own ice spikes and ran over, taking the initiative to launch two attacks. How dare you rush forward, you are so brave. Anzhe still had a contemptuous attitude on his lips, and jumped sideways, dodging the ice thorn attack without any haste. And Shoto Todoroki also rushed in front of him, and instantly drove his half-burned quirks with all his strength, and a huge frozen mountain spread from the ground. The ceilings of countless floors at the top of the entire building were suddenly pierced by the tip of the iceberg, and its area even covered the entire floor. This is the largest range of means currently available to Shoto Todoroki. Style of ice. Hammer of ice strike. However, before Shoto Todoroki wondered if he had gone too far. A blue magic circle appeared in front of his eyes, from Anzhe punching the other palm. With the appearance of the ice, a huge ice hammer was instantly created, and then Anzhe slammed it down. Boom. Click. The destructive power of the huge ice hammer falling vertically is extremely astonishing. The iceberg displayed by Shoto Todoroki was directly pierced from the position of the center force point. Numerous ice cracks cracked, all indicating that they could not bear the signal. In an instant, the ice shards scattered, pieces of broken ice of different sizes fell from the sky, and a white ice mist appeared. Dotted on Shoto Todoroki's horrified face, there were tiny bloodstains, carrying a slight chill. At this moment, the right half of his body was completely covered by frost. Quirks used too much backlash. But even so, Anzhe still easily defeated his strongest method, breaking something stubborn in his heart. That's the self-confidence he had in his half-cold quirks since he was a child. Use all your strength, you who don't use the left half of the flame ability are weak enough. Riding on the icy fog, Anzhe's figure rushed in front of Shoto Todoroki, and the frosty radiance of the sun stretched across the doctor. Shoto Todoroki can no longer use half-cold quirks, unless he activates half-burning quirks to remove the frost on his body. However, Shoto Todoroki lowered his head with a gloomy expression. It's boring. Anzhe frowned, and cast an ice modeling magic on Shoto Todoroki, who gave up resistance. Ice modeling. Isolation. Immediately afterwards, Anzhe's frosty palm touched Shoto Todoroki's shoulder. Click click click. The magic power of extreme ice produces ice blocks, which condense and extend in an instant, wrapping Shoto Todoroki in it and freezing it. Looking at Shoto Todoroki, who has become an ice sculpture, Anzhe said indifferently, even if you hate half-burned quirks, but that is your own strength, right? Blindly avoiding will never solve the problem. He kept his hand at the end, and didn't really freeze Shoto Todoroki, just frozen his appearance, and didn't penetrate into Shoto Todoroki's body. Therefore, he was sure that Shoto Todoroki inside the ice had listened to his words absolutely word for word. Anyway, this actual combat training is quite boring. Even at this point, Shoto Todoroki has not been forced out of his full strength. Afterwards, All Might led everyone in Class A to the building covered in frost. No one cares about the outcome of the actual combat training. What they care about is what happened and whether someone has an accident. Fortunately, nothing serious happened, and Shoto Todoroki only looked scary, but he was not seriously injured. Instead, it was Minoru Mineta who fainted, shivering non-stop due to the cold air entering her body, and caught a cold. In short, the basics of Hero S in the afternoon are over. 096 The volatile helix comes to the door. Second update, please subscribe. After the actual combat training, a few people including Shoto Todoroki, Minoru Mineta, and Midoriya Izuku will be brought to Yingying's infirmary by small robots for treatment. Then there is the comment. Yaoyorozu Momo, one of the intelligence leaders of Class A, is enthusiastically analyzing for everyone, and his speech convinced everyone. By the way, shouldn't this be the teacher's job? Anzhe glanced at All Might, who was fishing, and remembered that he had taken a cheat sheet when explaining the actual combat training rules. Probably because he was a little embarrassed by his own gaze, All Might coughed lightly. Thanks for your hard work. As far as the first actual combat training is concerned, everyone has done very well. All Might looked at Anzhe and Bakugo with complicated eyes, and continued, but be careful, this is just training, don't try too hard. Then I will go to visit the Green Valley Boys and Boom Boys, and you can go back to the classroom after changing your clothes bar. After that, the first day of classes at All Might is over. Seeing him running away in a hurry, all the students in Class A lamented that All Might is in such a hurry, but Anzhe knows that All Might's muscular shape won't last long. After returning to the class, all the students' eyes were full of enthusiasm, and they were all thinking about this actual combat training. Iida-san, did Anzhe say something to you? School is about to end. Taking advantage of this time, Yaoyorozu Momo, Kirishima Eijiro and others formed a review meeting. They were very curious about what Anzhe, the temporary teacher, said when he was fighting with Iida and the others. I have deeply reviewed myself, and I will never show it so bluntly and seriously in the future. Iida rolled his eyes. Also, I can't be so fast in the future, I have to slow down, and persistence is the key, the most important. Everyone in Class A, they were full of question marks, they couldn't understand what Iida was talking about. What did Anzhe say to him? Where did Ida who looked like a disciplinary committee member go? Kirishima Eijiro changed the subject with a smile, and looked at Tokiyami Yinta again. Tokiyami, your flying ability is so powerful, how did you come up with it? Tokiyami Yinta did not answer, but looked at Anzhe who was playing with his mobile phone on the table. Anzhe again. Tokiyami Yinta nodded, didn't say much, but his tone was full of admiration. He is my life mentor. Then, when the bell rang for the end of get out of class, Tokiyami Ginta got up and left the classroom directly. He can't wait to integrate with his Quirks Black Shadow and create more moves. So what did Anzhe say to them? The rest of Class A felt very speechless, and Kirishima Eijiro walked up to Anzhe helplessly. Anzhe, we are all holding a review meeting together, do you want to come too? Anzhe looked at his phone. Undulating Hawan said just now that he wanted to find himself, but their third grade school was later than the first grade, so it happened that there was nothing to do during the waiting time. Anzhe agreed. Okay. As time passed, Yaoyorozu Momo and Anzhe spoke the most in the review meeting. Yaoyorozu Momo offered his opinions based on his rich knowledge, while Anzhe knew their quirks and gave some suggestions on how to use them. Green Valley Izuku, Shoto Todoroki, and Minoru Mineta also returned to the classroom from Yingying's infirmary in the middle of the review meeting. Thanks for your hard work. Enthusiastic Kirishima Eijiro was the first to go up to him, asking for warmth. Green Valley Izuku has won the recognition and respect of everyone in the class with his strength and wisdom. Green Valley Izuku also thanked, and then asked another thing he was very concerned about, where's Kachan? He seemed to go back first alone. So, Green Valley Izuku hurriedly chased after him with his school bag on his back. And Shoto Todoroki also picked up his school bag, turned around and stared at Anzhe, and left the classroom silently. All of a sudden, the atmosphere in the class was a bit dignified, and I always felt that most of the students in the class were not in harmony with each other. Hi, excuse me, is Anzhe in this class? At this moment, a touch of blue hair poked through the door of the classroom and slipped in quietly, immediately attracting everyone's attention. This voice made Jiro Kyoka's body tense instantly, as if he was facing an enemy. Little J. No need to answer. Undulating Helix had already seen Anzhe among the students, waved his hand and walked in. 0. Seeking flowers. She has long blue hair with air bangs, a white sailor suit with a gray coat, and a dark green skirt, making ordinary school uniforms extraordinary. Suddenly, the students in the class realized that they all looked at Anzhe and exploded. Big beauty, because of beauty. Anzhe, where did you know the beautiful girl? The color of her tie is different from ours. It's red. Could it be a senior student? Seeing the beautiful girl who suddenly came to the door, almost all the boys in the class became excited. Jiro Kyoka saw this appearance in his eyes, and his cheeks puffed up in displeasure. Men are big pigs. The other girls also felt the difference in figure and appearance, and they were also curious about how Lien hooked up with such a girl in just 2 days after school started. This is too great. Anzhe coughed lightly, and introduced his relationship with Undulating Coils. Let me introduce to you, Undulating Coils, a third-year student of Yingying. Hi there. Undulating Spiral bowed generously, and then kept scanning the appearance of a person around him. It's over. Anzhe secretly feels bad. Sister Luowan, who is in the max state of curiosity, is coming. Because of his own quirks, there is always a bundle of curly hair on his head, which makes him full of curiosity about those whose appearance is affected by quirks. Anzhe, please tell me, how did you hook up with a senior sister in the first 2 days of school? The little grapehead Minoru Mineta rushed over and hugged Anze's leg. His eyes had changed from being hit countless times to worshipping eyes. The gap is too big, the two are not at the same level at all. Now Minoru Mineta only wants Anzhe to reveal some skills of picking up girls, and humbly asks for advice. It's not the start of school. I was an intern with Xiaoju's aunt Long Chihiro-s before, and I met Xiaoju. Hearing Minoru Mineta's request, Undulating Coil sticks out his tongue playfully. What? Minoru Mineta knelt down on the ground thinking about life, clenched his fists unwillingly. It turns out that he lost at the starting line of his life. It can be repaired. 097 Volatile Spirals with Exuberant Curiosity, Sunday Party. The third update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 261. 65. 87. By the way, what are these spheres on your head for? Is it just hair? Undulating Spiral looked at the purple balls on Minoru Mineta's head, and asked curiously. So senior, do you like my balls? They are very sticky. Before Minoru Mineta finished speaking excitedly, Undulating Helix ignored him, looked to the next one, and came to the side of Ashido Mina. It's sticky. No interest, she doesn't want to get her hands dirty. Can you move your 2 tentacles? In addition, if they are broken, can they grow back? Undulating Helix's eyes lit up, and she opened her claws. Hey, wait a minute, senior. Ashido Mina dodged in panic, but it was too late. Her 2 small tentacles were poked by the Undulating Coil with great interest. Ashido Mina, whose tentacles were being played with, felt a tingling electric current flowing all over her body, and her pink, 100, skin became even more blushing. Then, Ashido Mina broke free from the claws and moved her tentacles. Sister, it's still okay to move, but I haven't broken them yet. Hi, classmate, can this one with your ear hanging down be used as a headphone cable? The Undulating Spiral extended its claws to Jiro Kyoka again, but the 2 women were very peaceful. It would be better to say that Jiro Kyoka's face was flushed, and the 2 earphone cables were playing in the hands of the Undulating Spiral. Although Undulating Spiral knows that Anzhe has a childhood sweetheart, but he just heard that he has never met. As for Jiro Kyoka, somehow he couldn't produce any strange emotions in his heart when he was convoluted by the fluctuations in the max state of curiosity. Wow, frog girl, that's amazing, can your tongue stretch like a frog's? Is this tale a real tale? Sister Luowan, please don't harass others like a curious child. Anzhe watched with some headaches as the undulating spiral chased the students in the class, asking them various questions about quirks, almost turning the entire classroom upside down. I really couldn't bear to see it anymore, walked up to undulating Hirowan, and lightly hit her azure head with a knife, stopping her behavior. Hey, I haven't finished asking yet. Everyone's quirks are so interesting, it's amazing. Senior sister Wave puffed up her cheeks and said angrily. She didn't know how lethal this coquettish look was to boys, it was so cute. Anzhe smiled helplessly, and subconsciously pinched the undulating Hawan's face. Okay, we are holding a review meeting, so what do you want me to do, Miss Hawan? But Anzhe didn't know that Jiro Kyoka's cheeks puffed up again due to his intimacy just now. She took back what she said just now, and she felt overwhelmed. What is the review meeting? We started actual combat training today. Hearing this, undulating convoluted nodded. She was a third grader and naturally she also took this class. Undulating Spiral answered the question Anzhe asked just now. Take you to visit the campus, and Sister Longju said that there will be a party on the weekend, and she said that she will celebrate the entrance of Xiaoj for you. On weekends. That's fine, anyway, I'm free for those 2 days. Anzhe thought for a while, took out his mobile phone, only to find that Aunt Longju had already sent him an email. It's 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Because of the practical training all afternoon, Anzhe didn't even look at his phone, so he simply replied to the email and said, let's go, visit the campus. High school hours are the same as normal high schools, and there are clubs and on-campus activities, such as the campus festival in October every year. Next to Anzhe, Undulating Spiral also participated in the beauty pageant at the campus festival last year, but it was a pity that he lost to the first place with an extremely flamboyant appearance, but he also won the second place. Students of the Hero S department can still participate in this. Originally, the first day of school yesterday was the time for ordinary campus tours, but Aizawa Shota is not an ordinary person. It's the second day of school now, and it's not too late to visit the campus again. Wait, I'm going too. Jiro Kyoka gritted his teeth, carried his school bag, and stepped forward to walk side by side with Anzhe. Anzhe turned to look at the other students in Class A, and said hello. That's it, you guys continue the review, I'll leave first. The remaining group of people looked at each other in blank dismay. This little episode made them have a ghostly mind to hold a review meeting, so they went home after school. A bunch of people who were left looking at each other in blank dismay were all held a ghost review meeting by Shoshung, so they also went home after school. The area of UA High School is so large that I can't even imagine it. I walked straight toward a road for half an hour, but I still couldn't walk to the end. Except for some dormitory buildings dedicated to teachers and a few undisclosed work areas. Anzhe and the three of them only visited the normal institutions of the school, such as the stadium, the test hall for testing quirks, the administrative building, etc. Then the three of them went home separately, and they still went to school as usual until the weekend. Sunday. 8:30. Anzhe pushed open the window, and the cherry blossom trees on the corner of the street were in full bloom, and the wind blew by, but the cherry blossoms fell like snow. I've been studying for a week before I knew it, and the USJ incident should be coming soon. Anzhe sighed, and the time for the League of Villains to appear in front of the world was getting closer. The difference from the original book is my own relationship. Let the League of Villains come forward in advance and even cancel the headquarters, but it feels even more tricky. At least the League of Villains will definitely not send some shrimp soldiers and crab generals, and a Nomu, in an attempt to raid the heroes and kill All Might. Anyway, the soldiers will come to block the water and cover them with soil. Anzhe shook his head, but he wasn't too worried. He has accumulated 50,000 famous points now. These are all whole cards, enough to deal with any dangerous situation. After the promotion of magic, almost the famous points will rise to tens of millions. Anzhe felt that he needed to make a name for himself as soon as possible in order to increase his popularity. Then use 100,000 famous points to exchange for a super magic, as his whole card. In this way, even if he is allowed to face AFO alone, he can still be invincible. Master, do you need to teach me to soothe your mood? A still calm voice came from the ear, and Ji Yuya's serious expression 5.8 said incredible words. No need, and you will definitely not introduce yourself like before. Anzhe reminded him worriedly, whether he met Mt. Lady and others in the dormitory building, or met Jiro Kyoka and Hatsume Mei at home, her words brought him a lot of trouble. There was a bang bang knock on the door. Aunt Longju should be here. Anzhe got up and went to open the door, counting the time, and he was coming to the party. Wait, how should I explain Beluja's identity to Aunt Longju? Suddenly, Anzhe's footsteps faltered. He had always assumed the identity of Beluj as the maid left behind by his parents. But here comes the problem. This kind of lie is not convincing at all in front of Anzhe's aunt and relative Longju. 098. Guests, coming soon. 4th update, please subscribe. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 893. 223. 298. Beluj, consider working overtime today and go to the office for a day. Anzhe turned around to look at Beluj, and said earnestly. Although it can be said that he can hide for a while but not for a lifetime, but now this situation is absolutely indisputable. Beluga blinked innocently, trying to say something but was interrupted. It's okay, I'll just prepare for the party. Understood, master. Baloo bowed slightly, followed Anzhe's order, the magic power on his body appeared, and he left directly using his magic power. Coming. Anzhe turned around again, gently twisting the doorknob. The sun is just right outside. A girl stood quietly outside the door. White dress. She-er's refreshing dark purple short hair. The clear eyes like a lake made Anzhe startled slightly. Jiro Kyoka is the kind of girl who is not amazing at first glance, but upon careful observation, she is actually quite cute. Of course that's not what's important now. Kyoka. Anzhe had a look of astonishment on his face, he didn't expect that the visitor would be his childhood sweetheart. Anzhe, my parents asked me to come over. 09. Jiro Kyoka raised his hand and pinned a strand of hair that was blown by the wind to his back, and gently lifted a packing box. They just came back from a trip to other places, and they learned that you helped me. Training, so let me bring some souvenirs. Souvenirs refer to gifts bought for relatives and friends when visiting other places. They are usually special products, souvenirs and other small gifts. So it's a coincidence that you, girl, are here too. Just at this point in time. Suddenly, Anzhe remembered the campus visit that day, when he discussed this matter with undulating convoluted, Jiro Kyoka was also accompanying him. Anzhe smiled helplessly, and opened the door. Come in. Well, excuse me. Jiro Kyoka walked to the entrance, and looked around the room inadvertently. Hey, Anzhe is the only one in the room. Isn't Baruch in? Anzhe took a pair of slippers for Jiro Kyoka with her own hands, and coughed lightly. Baluj worked overtime today. Drink or tea? Anzhe turned and went to the kitchen. He remembered that there were still some grapes and oranges at home. He opened the refrigerator, only to find that there were only some fruits and drinks. Anzhe understood what Baluj was hesitating to say, what exactly he wanted to say. Why do we need to add ingredients every time this happens? Let's drink. Hearing Jiro Kyoka's voice, Anzhe brought out a bottle of orange juice, washed grapes and oranges. Bang bang. The knock on the door rang again. Anzhe got up again without stopping, and said, it should be that my aunt has arrived, I'll go and open the door. Open the door. As expected, there is no Miss Iron Circle. Today is a day off, neither Unagi or Jiro Kyoka will wear Xiangying's school uniform. Sister Luowan was wearing a blue pleated skirt, a pair of round-toed leather shoes, and black pantyhose for keeping warm on her feet, making her legs even more slender. The azure hair reflected the dazzling light in the sun, and at this moment, she was standing at the door with her legs together. Just as another gust of wind blew, the girl lightly pressed the blown skirt and hair. Although it was just a simple movement, it instantly highlighted the beauty of the girl. I said that Xiaojie will look straight at the eyes. Long Ju smiled and teased undulations. Today, Long Ju is still wearing the same cheongsam as before. The white tone is very in the style of landscape painting, which looks very elegant. Really, Sister Long Ju. Undulating Luowan's pretty face flushed slightly, a little embarrassed. Xiaojie, good morning. Suddenly, Long Ju frowned his slender willow eyebrows, and moved his nose lightly. It smells like other girls, Xiaojie. Suddenly, cold sweat broke out on Anzhe's forehead, and he felt pressured by Long Ju's direct gaze. The sense of smell is too sensitive. Wait, Aunt Long Ju's quirks is a dragon transformation, with the physique of a dragon, and his own sense of smell is also very sensitive. At least Aunt Long Ju, Sister Luowan, and Kyoka have different scents on their bodies, whether it's shampoo or perfume, Anzhe can easily distinguish them. Cough cough. Anzhe coughed lightly, and explained, she is my childhood sweetheart, Jiro Kyoka, who just brought some souvenirs here. Hearing this, undulating convoluted showed a dazed expression, and said, so the girl next to you in Anzhe that day was Jiro Kyoka. Come in and we'll talk. Anzhe changed the subject and went to the shoe cabinet to get 2 more pairs of shoes. For some reason, looking at the almost empty shoes in the shoe cabinet, I feel inexplicably not enough. But no one should come again. Excuse me. Aunt Long Ju and Sister Luowan shouted politely, and walked into the porch. The car enters the living room. Soon, the two posted Jiro Kyoka. Undulating Helix was the first to say hello. Good morning, classmate Jiro. Jiro Kyoka said, good morning, Undulation Senpai. Hi, I'm Xiaojie's aunt, Long Ju. The relationship with Anzhe that Long Ju talked about made Shangshang look over nervously. And Long Ju is also constantly beating Jiro Kyoka unconscious, and now she is more and more suspicious that her nephew's transformation is related to the childhood girl named Jiro Kyoka in front of her. I'm going to serve tea. Anzhe always felt that he could smell the faint smell of gunpowder, fidgeting, and chose to temporarily avoid the living room and enter the kitchen. After a while, the tea was served, and the result was the same. Bang bang bang. There was an unhurried knock on the door from outside. Stare. In an instant, the 3 people in the house all looked at Anzhe. I'm going to open the door. 1 inch. Anzhe twitched the corner of his mouth, he really couldn't think of who would visit at this time. Anzhe walked to the door and opened it, and there was a MT. Lady with blonde hair, a combat uniform designed by S*X, and a cheerful smile on her face. Yoho, director, the 3 of us. 3 people. Anzhe let out an exclamation, looked back, and there were 2 young girls. Sirius, who has the same azure blue hair as Sister Namaki, but short hair, high-tech auxiliary earrings, and a sun-kissed sailor suit. Then there is the inventive girl with short pink hair, Hatsume Mei, like the cherry blossoms falling outside the street. As soon as MT. Lady raised the bag in her hand, her voice stopped abruptly, not only interrupted by Anzhe's exclamation. It was she who turned her gaze again and was shocked by the scene in the room. She always thought that Anzhe usually only had him and Baloo at home, but now that Baloo came to the office and asked them to come, she thought Anzhe was the only one at home. As a result, who knew that there were so many women sitting in the room, and all of them were very beautiful women. Immediately, the eyes from both sides looked at Anzhe in front of him and behind him, and their eyes were different. First, come in. Anzhe's cheeks kept twitching, and he took out all the slippers from the shoe cabinet, and there happened to be 3 pairs left. Incidentally, there was no fluctuation in his heart. Real. 099 introducing the girls, Dragon 9 who asks questions. The first update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. 6 women who are known for their large body parts. More. 874. 219. 291. Anzhe retreated to the living room, walked directly to the kitchen, and made 3 cups of tea again. The more this is the case, the more you have to calm down. This is not a Shura field. Anzhe took a deep breath, except for the pressure of being stared at all the time, everything was fine. Now he has seen it, 1 is coming, and 2 are coming, although he did not expect 3 people to come at once. But the body is not afraid of oblique shadows, and the feet are not afraid of shoes. I didn't do anything shameful, so I had nothing to worry about. Mount. Lady, Sirius, and Hatsume Mei, who changed their shoes and walked into the living room, the first 2 professional heroes saw Longju on the sofa and immediately bowed respectfully and said, Dragon Ju. Longju also nodded indifferently, smiling softly, like a big sister next door. In the current hero's announcement list, she is one of the few professional heroes who ranks in the top 10 as a woman. Hero's quirks, fighting, these aspects are actually dominated by men. So Longju's influence in the hero's circle, not to mention other things, is the object of worship in the eyes of MT. Lady and Sirius. At this time, Anzhe also brought tea over, scanning a large group of people. He introduced them one by one, first looking at MT. Lady and the big bag in her hand. What's in this bag? Baluch said that you don't have enough ingredients at home, director, and there are guests coming. It just so happened that the 2 of us haven't received a request from Heroes, so we entrusted the 2 of us to buy the ingredients and send them over. Ling Nv Shaw lightly lifted the bag and replied. Buru. Anzhe twitched the corners of his mouth, feeling that this concern was actually intentional, causing the current situation single-handedly. When Baluch comes back, he must really tune her well and let her have a good memory. Who is Balu? Longju frowned, keenly discovering the key point in this sentence, it was another new name. What about you, Hatsume Mei? Anzhe was sweating coldly, and instead of answering Longju's question, he hurriedly changed the subject. Seeing this, although Longju felt some clues, it was not easy to interrupt other people's conversations. I met MT. Lady and Sirius on the street, and they asked me to come and play together. Hatsume Mei tilted her head innocently, disregarding her relationship. She also felt the subtlety of the current atmosphere. At least she didn't want to get involved, and it would be easier and more enjoyable to invent and manufacture. By the way, the products invented by Hatsume Mei will also be tested by professional heroes under Anzhe firm. So they all know each other and are good friends. Mount. Lady. You. Mount. Lady, who was called by Anzhe, twisted her head and whistled as if she was playing soy sauce, put the ingredients in the kitchen first. Anzhe was also a little helpless. After the introduction between the 2, he continued pointing to Hatsume Mei and introduced. Yingying is a first-year support student, I met by chance, and he is also the business partner of my office and Ion Hero's auxiliary props. Quote. After Anzhe finished speaking, he introduced Aunt Longju, Sister Luowan and Kyoka one by one. After the introduction, all the women in the living room were quiet and the situation was harmonious. After all, they are just friends, office colleagues, classmates, aunts, senior sisters, and business partners. They are all relationships that can be stated in an open and above-board manner. Anzhe does not panic at all. Fortunately, the living room is big enough, otherwise it really wouldn't be able to seat so many people. Anzhe complained silently, feeling a little headache because of the awkward atmosphere. It's fine if they are all friends, but many people basically meet for the first time. Although polite on the surface, in fact, many people should not be used to it. For example, his childhood sweetheart, Jiro Kyoka, puffed out his cheeks and didn't speak for a while. It would be better to say that he has been staring at himself with super fierce eyes. It seemed to be talking about his childhood sweetheart who usually went to and from school together. When did he meet so many beautiful women? Of course, there are also undulating spirals, and it has turned into a max state of curiosity again, looking at Sirius earrings and Hatsume Mei's strange pupils, asking this and that. This kind of harmless appearance made Longju shake his head feeling disappointed. Speaking of which, director, your room is very clean. After Mt. Lady put away the ingredients from the kitchen, she took a sneak peek at Anzhe's room, looking curiously, it's completely different from the boy's room in my impression. Quote. Quote. Mount. Lady's behavior is a bit disrespectful. Of course, he also knows that this is a habit of her carefree personality, but he took a small notebook and wrote it down. When the year-end bonus is calculated at the end of the year, he must deduct a bonus from her. Anzhe asked casually. Then what does Mt. Lady's boy's room look like in your impression? Mount. Lady stretched out a slender finger, put it on her lips, and said, For example, shoes and socks are thrown around, clothes are everywhere, there is strange sticky toilet paper in the wastebasket, and the smell of squid wafts in the air. Let me go, what the hell is the sticky paper, and what is the smell of squid in the air? Anzhe also did not expect that he, a young man with a sunny and cheerful appearance, would be thought of so badly. No, he has deducted MT. Ladies' year-end bonus. Indeed, I also feel that Xiaojie has changed a lot, simply speaking, he has become more mature. Suddenly, Longju spoke up and everyone listened to her in silence. After all, she was the person with the most seniority and age among all the people present. Longju looked at Anzhe with a scrutinizing gaze. I also read a book recently that a man's maturity is a momentary thing, and it is often related to women. Anzhe frowned, he didn't expect his dearest aunt to throw him a gift proposition instead. At the same time, Shang Zhang's heart skipped a beat. She sneaked a guilty glance at Anzhe, but she also felt the changes in her childhood sweetheart with her naked eyes. From often sleeping in class, unwilling to communicate with other people, what's more better is the appearance of giving up on oneself all day long. A complete 180-degree change has taken place, and even obtained magical magic, and passed the Hero S license to become a professional Hero S. Of course, Jiro Kyoka couldn't think of time travel, such a dangling possibility, but thought of the open-air mall that day. Could it be because of himself? On that day, Anzhe tried her best to save her posture, but she kept it vividly in her heart. Hey, Xiaojie, Auntie wants to ask you something. Longju narrowed his eyes and smiled, with a more terrifying interrogation look, and asked, which girl did you make such a change for? Anzhe swallowed his saliva. He could also feel the question raised by Longju, which made some people, even those who had nothing to do with him, look at him with curiosity and gossip. The eyes of everyone in the room are concentrated, it is really stressful. I made a change too. 100A calm day, cooking time. Second update, please subscribe. Interesting for you. Unveiling Tim Walls, the inspiring story of his family. More. 482. 121. 161. Anzhe hesitated, and immediately whetted the appetites of everyone in the room, as well as some people's expectations. As a result, Anzhe said, it was just a sudden awakening, and I felt that I had to make myself better, so I made a change. Sorry, because of someone's change, totally non-existent. Speaking of which, changes in living habits, the kind of small things that have been cultivated for a long time, are the most difficult to change in a short time. His change is only because the Traverser, different from the original owner of this body, has his own habits. But this secret is not like magic, Anzhe will never tell anyone. Tisk. Longju folded his hands on his chest, some kind of lip balm should have been applied on his lips, which made the sound of his mouth very loud, obviously dissatisfied with Anzhe's answer. It just so happens that today is a party, you all stay here for lunch, right? Anzhe looked calm, as if he hadn't heard anything, and ignored it strategically. Mount. Lady cheerfully raised her hand. Then I won't be polite. Jiro Kyoka. I'll tell my parents. Before Hatsume Mei met MT. Lady and serious on the street, she originally planned to eat something casual for lunch, and then go to the secret base of Daguchang Seaside Park. She thought about it for a while but didn't refuse, so she stayed for dinner. Not to mention Aunt Longju and Sister Luowan, they were the ones who proposed the party. Okay, I'll go get ready. You sit down and eat some 120 fruits or watch TV for a while. Anzhe heaved a sigh of relief, calming down the scene. There would be no Shira field in the room. First of all, MT. Lady and serious, these two melon-eating girls, came here purely to join in the fun, cross it out. Then Aunt Longju, crossed out. As a aunt, she is doomed to not even have the opportunity to invest in shares. Then there is Hatsume Mei, this girl who is an inventor, she is sure that she has a headache now, and wants to face those cold parts and materials, instead of participating in wars or making troubles, the same is crossed out. After all, it's just Jiro Kyoka and undulating spiral. What Sister Luowan said, she is not conscious of that aspect of things, so it is harmless to humans and animals, although she herself does not know the charm she exudes. And Jiro Kyoka, a childhood sweetheart, is grateful for the relationship between seniority and class, and naturally has to respectfully call out senior sister in the face of undulating spirals. Therefore, I will definitely not go too far and lose the performance of the etiquette image. So, today is destined to be a calm day. Hey, Anzhe, can you still cook? Jiro Kyoka was taken aback. Anzhe had been buying bread before, and after the appearance of Baruch, he brought the bento made by his maid. Anzhe replied. After all, I live alone, and it happens that I also have some hobbies in cooking. It seems that Aunt Longju and Sister Luowan know that they can cook. No, there is also Hatsume Mei, sometimes she is busy too late at the secret base, and Anzhe will simply cook a supper for her. As for MT, Lady and serious, they were completely unfamiliar with Anzhe's private life, so there was no big surprise. Only Jiro Kyoka, she glanced at the expressions of the others, and suddenly felt that she had failed as a childhood sweetheart. When did Anzhe know so many beautiful women, and he knew how to cook, she didn't know at all. Xiaojie, I will also help. Longju stood up. The last time Anzhe came to her house, because she was surprised and wanted to see if it was true, she let Anzhe finish the cooking by herself. Now this situation will definitely not be on the sidelines anymore. After one person took the lead, the others couldn't sit still. I came here as a guest instead of going to a restaurant to eat. Now that the host is busy with cooking, he must help the leader out of the situation and reason. He has been sitting on the sofa without moving, which is really unreasonable. Not to mention that Anzhe is still a boy, asking him to cook, and the girl who fell into the house of his own looks at it. As a woman, it is too embarrassing. Then please ask Aunt Longju. Anzhe smiled and did not refuse. After all, there are 7 people in a room including him, and it would be a waste of time to take care of all of them by himself. In fact, it is easier and more convenient for so many people to go out to eat, but he prefers the feeling of eating with friends at home, and he also likes cooking, so he decided to have dinner at home. Xiao Jie, and me, all help too. A fluttering voice sounded in the ear, and Sister Luowan came to Anzhe's side, and the curled hair on her head was shaking slightly. Anzhe paused. Sister Luowan can cook. Looking back on my memory, when Sister Luowan AJDH took care of herself, she almost always bought bento meals outside. Of course. Undulating Hwan's eyes dodged, but he still answered. I got full marks in the home economics class. Then what will Sister Luowan do? Anzhe asked casually. The home economics class is to cultivate students' self-reliance in life. The content ranges from washing vegetables, cooking, washing dishes to tidying up the room and washing clothes, etc., which are all aspects related to life. Anzhe also felt that Sister Luowan was a little guilty. It is normal for her to cook, but how much she can cook should be debatable. Miso soup, tamagoyaki, omuris, curry. Undulating Spiral's pretty face flushed slightly. The dishes she mentioned were all dishes that appeared in the home economics class. And me, I'll help too. Jiro Kyoka also stood beside the undulating spiral, and said a little closer. Ever since, the 3 of them helped the cook decide. Mount, Lady, Hatsume Mei, and Sirius in the living room did not participate, and the former 2 did not know how to cook at all. The latter felt that there were a lot of people in the kitchen, so it was better to be a quiet half-eater audience. Anzhe walked into the kitchen and looked at the ingredients that Baruj asked MT. Lady to bring. Tomato, egg, potato, pork, tuna, preserved egg, coriander, shrimp, yam, green za. Because foreigners will swallow preserved eggs as if they were boiled eggs, anyone would feel terrible. Even the master who is at the top of the food chain has eaten this way and vomited. So you have never tasted dishes like tofu mixed with preserved eggs, porridge with preserved eggs and lean meat, otherwise you must let them say the word really delicious. Coriander can be said to be the most controversial thing in the world. Those who like it can eat it every meal, but those who don't like it are like swallowing poison and can't eat a single bite. P.S. The second update, please subscribe. Anzhe twitched the corner of his mouth. This is a typical series of misunderstandings. It is said that this thing has something to do with genes. Those who didn't like to eat coriander when they were young, but they like coriander when they grow up, have nothing to do with genes, it's purely a matter of taste when they were young. Anzhe is one that can be eaten but not liked. Jiro Kyoka looked away, still looking terrified. I read foreign news, there is a museum of disgusting recipes, and there are preserved eggs in it. Xiao Jie. What is this? Anzhe poked his head out and asked the people in the living room, do you eat coriander? Well, coriander is an ingredient in the refrigerator. The 3 people in the living room shook their heads, and the 3 people in the kitchen also shook their heads. Then, Anzhe looked at the green pepper again, this second series of misunderstandings. Jiro Kyoka covered his mouth with a terrified expression. In short, preserved eggs, like coriander, were also put in the refrigerator. Anzhe was speechless. Is there such an exaggeration? Preserved eggs. This is something only the devil can eat. The sound of undulating spirals made Anzhe retract her head, and she was pointing at another egg that was different from the egg.